Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah, it's purple.
It's the right. Oh my God.
Am I not merciful? Am I not purple?
I was gonna say it's the right. I think it's the right shade of purple, but
yeah, I was very careful. I tried very carefully to get the right shade for my skin tone, obviously, as one does.
What's so funny about all of this is you come across as someone who would have gone to Woodstock 99, right? Someone who'd be into like new metal, someone who'd be like raging out to Limp Bizkit during his teen years. But you're just so far from that. That's not who you are at all.
I did this all for the nookie, I guess, to give you the music you crave. So look, the squad delivered, so I delivered, but I got some bonuses for you. So not only did I dye my hair purple, I dyed the tips of my ears purple. I dyed some portions of my shower purple. I dyed my palms purple. I've been scrubbing them the whole day, so it's mostly gone. But I've dyed all sorts of things purple by accident. There's a handprint of purple in my bathroom wall, so that's cool. Anyway,
hold on, this is important. Is this permanent hair dye? Meaning it's gonna remain until it grows out.
Yeah, which by the way is, that's like 2 weeks because my hair is not very long. In fact, I kind of wish it was a little bit longer for this because I don't know, you can see it, right? It's pretty visible.
Oh, we can see it. We can see it, John. We can see it.
I think it looks better than it could have. But when I looked at it, I did not think I finally found me. That is not what I thought.
No, look, first off, you look ridiculous, of course, but this is the important part. This is the important part. You're a man of your word, John Iadarola. You give me hope for the future because we exist in this environment full of deception, full of grifting, full of nonsense. But you, John Iadarola, are a man of your word, and that gives me hope. I'm sure that gives so many other Americans hope for the future. So thank you. This is one of the best things you could have done for me.
I will try to uphold the nobility and honor that the great kings of old clad in purple once did. By the way, going to a hospital later today for serious, that's cool for the purple hair. But anyway, and my wife didn't move out. That's good. I think that's about the extent of her eagerness for this purple hair. She will not be dyeing her hair purple, it turns out. But anyway, thank you everybody for helping Sabrina own me as usually only like Ken might. So that's cool. But we do have something. No, wait, people are already talking about it. Oh, you've already seen. Have you seen the purple dragon? So our awesome team, I believe it was Norma. I apologize if I got it wrong. Whip this together. So if you would like to show solidarity during my lowest period of my life at shop2it.com, we now have the purple dragon. And can I just say, I've liked a lot of the shirts, but I think as much as it will forever be a reminder of how ridiculous I look with this hair, I think the purple looks best out of, we have green, red, and rainbow yet. I think this is the best. Doesn't that look perfect?
No, it's a purple dragon. It's amazing. I love it. In fact, I am not a big fan of wearing t-shirts. I would wear this t-shirt. I would wear this t-shirt on the show, which is like a big deal. So I don't know. If you want to send me one, slim fit V-neck. I'm just saying I might wear it. I might wear it on the show.
Me too, by the
way.
In
solidarity with you, of course.
Okay, team, can we get her a slim fit V-neck in time for the show? Maybe we'll see that. That's very nice. Also, we have to send one to Sabrina. That's the bare minimum. This is all her idea. My shame and the fact that we have all these new people in the community is due to Sabrina. So Sabrina, thank you for that. And for those of you who will find it difficult for the next couple weeks to hear me talk about serious issues, I apologize to the communities. I will no longer be serving as well. But anyway, sorry, Anna, what were you gonna say?
I just wanted to say, look, sometimes I seek revenge, right? And sometimes revenge just happens naturally. And in this case, we got to remind the audience why it is that you had to dye your hair purple. Why was it, John? Was it because you doubted TYT's main show, the show that I executive produce and also host? Is that you doubted it, right?
Because what are you talking about?
You should remind your audience about why it is that you lost this bet. Why?
Because
why did you have to dye your hair purple?
It's so awesome that they gifted like 1,100 subs in one day. I think you're gonna make this,
which you didn't think was possible.
I never
think that was
said
possible, did you?
I literally don't know what you're talking about. How dare you to attack my honor when I am clad in royal colors? Anyway,
listen.
Yes, thank you.
Since you're a man of your word, Since you're a man of your word, I forgive you for doubting the main show. But I will admit, I do love this very easy revenge. Like I didn't have to do anything for it. I just got it. It was served to me on a silver platter. So thank you.
So I have one final question. When are we gonna see Anna Kasparian with purple locks?
Listen, John, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I don't play those games.
Okay, so wait, so you're saying that right now I'm in the find out phase of my hair after doing the phase that comes before finding it? Okay, well, I've been owned, so that's cool. But anyway, shop2it.com. By the way, this is more of a personal thing for the team. If this shirt does really well, that is gonna so bolster. Every once in a while, I will just type, hey, we should do this shirt. And usually they're like, well, a lot of the times they make it. A lot of times they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. But if this does really well, think about it, they're gonna take it more seriously. So come on, let's have some fun. Let's see some purple. Anyway, with that, thank you everyone for being here to mock me with purple renditions of Jenks art wearing sunglasses in the Twitch chat. Thank you for that. We do also have a bunch of news which we're about to get to. So thank you everybody for being here. If you could hit the like button, share the stream, that would be great. And as we go through, we'll be taking breaks. If you want to send us tweets, comments, super chats, all that, we'll be responding. But before that, Anna, are you ready to talk some news?
I'm ready, let's do it.
Okay, well, let's jump into this video.
Blame here.
Well, I think there's a couple of issues here. First of all, you are absolutely correct in that the House and House leadership had the opportunity to vote to extend the moratorium. And there were many, and there was frankly a handful of conservative Democrats in the House that threatened to get on planes rather than hold this vote. And we have to really just call a spade a spade. We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
Yes, we can blame them for many things. The Republicans suck, but this one, like so many other issues these days, is all on the Democrats. The Democrats had every bit of the authority needed to stop the eviction moratorium, the foreclosure moratorium from lapsing in many parts of the country. The Biden administration did challenge the Supreme Court decision that would end it on Thursday, 2 days before the program was set to expire. So they meant it when they wait until 2 days before it's done. They say Congress would have had to pass new legislation to create an extension. It did not do so in time before leaving for an August recess, so the moratorium has officially expired. Of course, they had to have this recess because Congress people, like every American worker, get 6 weeks off a year. But anyway, so the Biden administration is basically saying, I would have loved to continue, but it's really on you, Nancy Pelosi. Well, let's go to Nancy Pelosi. She tweeted, the CDC has the power to extend the eviction moratorium. As they double down on masks, why wouldn't they extend the moratorium in light of the Delta variant? And I'm sure later today, the CDC will say, well, it was actually the Forest Service. They really should have done it. And then the Forest Service will say it's the Sheboygan dog catcher's office which should have done it. Somebody do something. How about that? Because you didn't, and now it's done. And you can point fingers, but the issue is your finger pointing doesn't stop anyone and their family from being thrown out on the street, their lives being perhaps irreparably damaged by the experience that millions of Americans are probably in the process of undergoing, and more will with every passing day. We have a lot more on this, including some people who are trying to do the right thing. But Anna, what do you think?
Well, I think that you're being a little unfair, John. You're being unfair to the Democratic Party. Because the fact of the matter is right now they're engaged in a very complex, complicated game of three-dimensional chess. They're thinking about the upcoming midterm elections and they realize that, the electorate, especially their base, absolutely loves it when they pass the buck, even as they control both the executive branch and Congress. Democratic voters love it. You love to see it. So watching Democratic lawmakers and the Democratic administration abandon the American people and decide to maybe do something in the final hour when it was nearly impossible to get anything done, that's leadership. That's the kind of leadership that Democratic voters have come to expect.
Yeah. I wish, so you joke there that they're thinking about the midterms or whatever, and maybe they are, but they're insane and not qualified. Right. They're not qualified to be coldly ambitious. They're not qualified to even boot morality, your political ideology, your obligation and responsibility to your voters, and just focus on staying in office. They can't even figure that part out. They stay there. I guess money is enough. I guess you don't need anything else, but they're definitely going to lose in the midterms. Like, and maybe this isn't even the best example, because one would imagine that most Americans would have a problem with throwing millions of people out on the street, but Americans are largely a cold, calculating people lacking in empathy. But on issue after issue, they're not even doing the easy, popular stuff that they could do, let alone the more difficult stuff that's needlessly controversial. This would be a slam dunk to show that when the American people needed help, they provided it in a way that the Republicans wouldn't. But now they are no better. And I don't care if it's Biden that made them no better, or Nancy Pelosi, or the CDC, or some undersecretary at the EPA. I don't care. You're not better.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's really disheartening is you're watching, Democrats pass the buck, when in reality, they know that they have tools in their toolbox that they can utilize in times of emergency, especially the executive branch. We're seeing another spike in coronavirus cases driven primarily from the Delta variant. It is an emergency. I mean, Florida now has over, or more than, I should say, 20,000 cases, new cases of coronavirus per day. In Los Angeles, or I should say California overall in the state, we have about 10,000 new coronavirus cases per day. The situation is dire, meaning that the executive branch in this pandemic, during this emergency, can make some pretty significant decisions in order to keep Americans safe. Extending the moratorium is a huge part of that, especially given the fact that the money that's been allocated for rental relief has not been given out by many of these states, including some Democratic states. They're taking forever to provide rental relief. So we're talking about millions of Americans who are living on the brink and could be evicted beginning today.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. The only consolation, I think, is that nobody saw it coming. And nobody has been talking about it for more than a year. No, of course there have been some good, oh no, continue.
No, sorry, I'm gonna go off for one more minute. Yeah, because that excuse is okay, right? Think about that excuse in your own context, where you have huge responsibilities either with your family or at work. You don't actually follow through with those responsibilities, and then you turn around and say like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. But in this case, we're not talking about an individual person making decisions about elements of his or her own life. We're talking about members of Congress. We're talking about a president. These are people who are elected not just to represent themselves or their corporate donors, but to represent the American people, period. And when they turn around and they wonder like, oh, why are we losing these elections? Is it because we use phrases like defund the police? No, it's because you guys don't actually carry out what needs to be done to represent the best interests of the American people. You don't provide protection during a pandemic. You don't provide shelter during a pandemic, and they deserve to pay the consequences for that. The only problem is the other political party is even worse, far worse. And so we find ourselves in this awful situation, and I don't know what kind of advice to give American voters at this point. I mean,
like if
how do you? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, imagine you get thrown on the street, and let's say that you work so hard to get your life back together. An election comes, who are you supposed to vote for? Like the Democrats didn't help you. They let you be thrown on the street, but the Republicans would have let you be thrown on the street and then they would have kicked you in the stomach. So I don't know. That is rough. But really fast, I do want to give credit to some who have been good on this issue, including, well, like we showed the video of AOC calling out the Democrats and making sure that people know that it's the Democrats. We need more of that. And she's been talking about this looming crisis for more than a year. Ilhan Omar has as well, other members of the squad. Cori Bush slept on the US Capitol steps on Friday to protest not just the eviction moratorium going away, but the fact that so many Democrats flew back home to have parties or whatever for their massive recess that they haven't earned. What have they done? They passed the COVID stimulus bill. And I think they did something that everybody agreed on was super obvious about hate crimes. And that was it. So you get 6 weeks off. 6 weeks off. There's nothing that needs to be done right now. You know, the whole democracy bill and the infrastructure, we'll get back to it someday, maybe. Anyway, thank you, Cori Bush. By the way, before we go to our first break, I just wanted to say my hair thing sort of upset the normal flow of the show. Anna Kasparian, thank you for joining us on the show today. Everybody's super excited. People are coming in and they're like, hey, late to the show, it's Anna. I love that. Thank you. Francesca couldn't be here and Anna's filling in, even though she's one of the busiest people in this industry. So Anna, thank you. It is a pleasure, not just to do a show with you, that's always true, but to start a week with you, I love it.
I love it too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we are gonna go to our first break though. When we come back, we're gonna be talking about COVID, diving into some of what Anna was talking about, these terrible numbers, maybe have a little debate over how we push people in the right direction after this. So I know it looks ridiculous, but as I'm looking at my preview, it's subtle enough that I'm starting to get used to it. Is that a bad thing? Is it bad to have the purple hair, but worse to start to think it's okay?
No, it's actually not bad. It is pretty subtle. I like it. I'm into it, kind of. I mean, keep it for 2 weeks and then get rid of it.
She's so nice. That's all that is. It's her being nice. Anyway, over on YouTube, Greg Gillum, thank you for becoming a tier 1 member. Pugzilla for becoming a tier 2 member. After the show, tier 2 and tier 3 members always get our top 10 list. I'm gonna be doing a list of the top 10 famous people I would love to be able to have a fun, honest conversation with, delving into their area of expertise in a couple different areas. Yes, we're done with A. So Steve Snyder sent a super chat saying, sorry about the Olympic anger on Friday. I was in a lousy mood. I won't yuck your yum again. My girlfriend gave me a timeout for being so hostile to you. Won't happen again. I felt bad about it all weekend. Hi, Anna. It was really okay, Steve. Like I was mostly playing up how aggressive you were being. If I really hated your super chat, I wouldn't have read it. But and by the way, like you pointing out some pervasive issues with multiple rounds of the Olympics. You were not wrong with any of that. I still like it anyway, but we should definitely try to fix those problems. And I feel bad that you got a timeout from your girlfriend over it. Although I do like the loyalty from your girlfriend, so thank you. Anyway, no, we got no bad blood, Steve. Billy Shively says, I'm just here for John's perp walk, perp spelled P-U-R-P. Thank you. Forbesilla says, John, I love it so much and I love the shirt, it's perfect. Thank you. I do think the shirt is perfect. I really love this shirt. I want a hoodie of this. Anyway, Quantum Dragon says, hail the reborn purple dragon daddy. Thank you. Is there like a thing? Do you think of a color when you think of being progressive? I think it should be purple. They both start with P. And red, white, and blue is so tied into like ridiculous patriotism and stuff like that. I think we should take purple. What is purple used for? Probably taken by something. Anyway. Matthias says, only a manly man could pull that off. Great job, and I'm proud of you, John. DJ Purple Lunchbox Dragon Leader. The name is getting a bit too long, but thank you, I appreciate that. Let's see. Ray Turner says, looking good, Dragon Daddy, deep purple. Surely Anna, he wants to see your hair purple too. Don't think it's gonna happen. Although you have had a diverse range of hair colors. You've done super dark to very blonde.
Yes, it's either brunette or blonde. I don't really venture out of that. Which the only reason why you guys see me looking more and more brunette is because I just don't have the time to go get my hair done. So like my roots are out of control right now. But it's okay.
I thought that was just highlights. It looks
I mean, I do have highlights from like 6 months ago. And so my hair's been growing out ever since. And thank you.
Looks good. Cindy Garwood, thank you for your number one. You're number one. Wayne Sugahara says, John, you rock. This looks so hard. Wayne, I assume that you are using very dry British humor to mock me. But no, thank you. I do not, but thank you. And by the way, nothing you say is going to counteract the look I saw in my wife's eyes I'm joking. Anyway, Forrest Dudley says, question for Anna. Your mention of Woodstock reminded me to request that you cover the possible FBI sting in Michigan that Nando covered on Saturday. Would love to get John's and or Jenks takes on it. I'm actually not familiar with that story. But anyway, just a heads up to you. Okay, Ruthless Dragon says, I guess you're not cold anymore, Johnny Pie. I was wearing a hoodie on the pre-show. That's what that's a reference to. And running out of time, British says, hey John, looks like TYT TDR have earned the donation. Is there a video of your purple dye job? There's not a video. It was a mess, but you can enjoy this for the next couple weeks. Anyway, more news after this. Okay, with that, it's me and a special Anna Kasparian joining us on the normally Fantastic Mondays. They're now Anna-tastic Mondays. Thank you for being here, Anna. And with that, why don't we jump into our next story? We had a nice little intermission in the pandemic, but things are getting just as dark as we've been expecting over the past few weeks. There were 101,171 new COVID-19 cases reported to the CDC just a couple of days ago. The last time the US saw over 100,000 cases reported in a single day was nearly 6 months ago on February 6th. We had gotten through the dark winter, cases were falling relatively precipitously, and we thought at the time, maybe vainly, that, hey, we will never again reach these heights, but unfortunately we have. And some of the states that have been leading this are doing just as poorly as one might expect. Florida has broken its old COVID-19 hospitalization record, reporting over 10,200 people hospitalized with the virus on Sunday. The previous record was July 23rd, 2020. When we had no vaccines, we had barely nothing. Maybe we were starting to stock toilet paper at that point, but we have now passed, despite having over 50% of the population there vaccinated. That's how poorly we're doing. The state has its highest ever per capita COVID hospitalizations. It hit its all-time high for new cases with more than 21,000 recorded. And by the way, so let's go to this chart because I want to make sure that people understood this. I don't mean they're high since the dark winter. I don't mean they're high of 2021. It's the most cases they've ever had, even back when we barely had tests and had no vaccines. But despite this, Anna, I still don't know that people are gonna get how bad this is. That's right. Really, really bad.
It's really bad. And the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, basically has just made wearing masks in public schools, voluntary. It's not a mandate. So he literally intervened in order to ensure that the public school systems in Florida don't force students and educators and administrators to wear masks. Great. Yeah. So it's just more of the same failed decisions extending into a pretty dark era for the coronavirus. And understand that for people who are vaccinated, yes, it is true that you can still spread the vaccine. Spread the virus among one another, even between two vaccinated people. But the point of the vaccine is to prevent people from getting hospitalized and from dying from the virus. So that's the point. But the reason why you're seeing the mask being mandated in various parts of the country right now is to essentially prevent the spread of the Delta variant to unvaccinated people who have a much higher likelihood of getting hospitalized and dying from coronavirus, from the Delta variant. And so it's incredibly frustrating because you're right, there was a period of what felt like relief, when people were finally getting vaccinated, and you thought, I felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, but unfortunately, no. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm very frustrated about the fact that we have to go back to wearing masks. I understand why we're doing it. It's not about preventing the death of everyone, whether they're vaccinated or not. This is specifically about unvaccinated people who continue to, unfortunately, buy the anti-vaccine propaganda on right-wing media. And I don't know what else to do about it at this point. I mean, all you can really do is make sure you're safe, that your family is safe. And I don't know, John, at this point,
we're gonna speculate. In a little bit, we're gonna compare a few options. It's felt hopeless for a long time.
I know, but at this point, it's beyond hopeless. I mean, what are you going to do to convince these people? They've been propagandized to believe that this is just a way of the government controlling us. I got news for you. You wake up every morning, you go to a job that you hate just to make sure that you don't end up on the streets or make sure you don't die. I mean, that's already government control. We're already living our lives based on the rules and the regulations of the corporate world, of the government. I mean, the idea of people like making this their red line, like, oh, a vaccine that could save my life. This is my red line. This is government control. Okay, whatever, cool. Well, if you're so worried about government control, there's a likelihood that you're gonna get sick, incredibly sick, possibly hospitalized, and you're possibly gonna die as a result of this nonsense. And it's frustrating. I'm done with it.
Ken had a great tweet where he was like, I'm not gonna let them put that in my body. And then he had screenshots of all the different government efforts allowing more pollution in the air, more pollution in the water, the toxins, all this stuff.
Dude,
yeah,
Mountain Dew is legal. Mountain Dew is legal. Like, come on. People
we
put
all
that
have
kind of stuff in their bodies every day.
I used chicken fries last week. You're using Mountain Dew. I like Mountain Dew. But anyway, yeah, they put that. They're putting cattle dewormer. We talked about that in the pre-show. They're taking cattle dewormer. They literally say, I'm not gonna be sheep, and they use something used to deworm sheep. I've seen the packet. It's sheep medicine. But anyway, yes. So look, it's really bad. 80 to 90% of those in Florida hospitals are not vaccinated. And by the way, so you might say, well, 80 to 90%, wasn't it like 99% before? And that's true. It's possible we're seeing more breakthrough cases. But let's also bear in mind that that number is going to be influenced by the percentage of the population that is vaccinated. The more people that are vaccinated, if you still have spread, necessarily more of those in hospitals will be vaccinated. But that said, right now they're also noticing, Tampa Bay Times says that the spike in hospital admissions is mainly among younger adults aged 20 to 40, even though I heard like on Fox News that they couldn't get sick. But anyway, over 1/3 of the hospitalized are under the age of 50. And all of this is with close to 60% of the Florida population being fully vaccinated. That is how insanely transmissible this is. I don't know how to make it any more clear. So if you want to be protected, you're not 100% protected. We've said that over and over again, but it is the best bet that you have. You should definitely do it. Now, let's turn to potential solutions. So with more and more people getting sick every day, the US skyrocketing past 100,000 cases, God only knows when we'll hit 200,000. What can we actually do? Well, there's been a few things discussed. And a recent poll shows, I find surprising level of support for perhaps the most extreme of the solutions, which would be a vaccine mandate. About 64% say they'd support a universal vaccine mandate across the US. 70% support it for getting on a plane, 61% for requiring it for children to go back to school, 66% for college students to go back to the university. And while obviously there is going to be a strong political thing here, 45% of Republicans support a universal COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Close to half of Republicans say across the board you should be required to get this. And 84% of Democrats do. So look, as of right now, I believe just over the weekend, Anna, I think Dr. Fauci and Biden both said that that's not going to happen. But were it to happen, it would of course help. And a lot of Americans seem pretty okay with it.
I think that the smart strategy here isn't for the federal government to hand down some sort of mandate. I think that it makes a lot of sense for private industry to and public, public organizations to ensure that people are vaccinated if anyone is to either visit whatever business it is or use whatever service needs to be used. Honestly, I think the best way forward is to make life increasingly difficult for people who refuse to be vaccinated. And that's not the government mandating anything. That's you deciding that you want to be irresponsible. And if you don't want to play by the rules, then there are consequences for that. The sense of entitlement that comes along with this anti-vaccine crowd is also incredibly infuriating. You don't get to tell a business what they can and can't do regarding masks or regarding vaccines, right? I mean, these are the same people who like rise up as soon as there's any discussion about regulating these companies when they're robbing people. But when it comes to getting vaccinated to ensure that people are safe, to ensure people aren't hospitalized, that's where they draw their red line. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk more about sticks in a bit. Here are some potential carrots. So I saw this, I believe it was Ken Klippenstein I mostly just go on Twitter for Ken Klippenstein. I think that's been clear for a long time. But anyway, he tweeted out the results of a New York Times Kaiser Family Foundation survey asking what may motivate people to get vaccinated. So if it was fully FDA approved, let's see. It looks like that might be the single biggest thing other than available from a personal physician. What it is. Man, how frustrating is it when you find out that one of the things that would be required for someone to take it is a thing that's already true, but that at least is a reminder that we need to communicate to people. But so for instance, if it was required to fly, that would be a pretty strong effect. If it was required for large gatherings, some of the things that I thought like $100 cash is not a particularly strong incentive. Like now it could be higher. We could do another round of COVID stimulus that went to the vaccinated or something. Anna, would that? No, that you wouldn't be interested in trying that?
No, sorry. Stop acting like babies. Stop it. No more carrots. I think it's pathetic. I think it makes us look so embarrassing on a global stage where we have all these countries that are desperate to get their hands on doses of the vaccine. And here you have Americans with their sense of entitlement needing to be treated like absolute babies and children in order to get vaccinated. No, I'm sorry, I'm done with that. No more carrots, no.
Okay, well, in a moment, we're gonna go to a video and I think I now know what your take is gonna be. We'll see, I'm excited to find out. But really fast, before we go to that, I just want to give Ken a little bit more credit because Ken, he had a tweet that like Ken has tweets that get 10,000 retweets every single day. This one is being criminally under-recognized for how good this is. He tweeted, "I don't get why conservatives are so alarmed by mandatory vaccinations. The proposal is really quite simple. Ilhan Omar is going to hold you down and vax you." Favorite tweet
That's
ever.
Pretty funny.
It is.
Yeah,
No, go on.
The ability to use humor to make a point like that, I think is super powerful. And Ken Klippenstein is like, honestly, currently he's the king of that.
He is Twitter's razor. Like he's so sharp. He just cuts right to it. You cannot come up with a nightmare stronger for Republicans than Ilhan Omar giving you life-saving medicine. That is it. But that gave me some joy when I saw that, I think early Sunday. But you know what gave me like the joy to close out a weekend that wasn't great necessarily? Is that Ilhan Omar liked that tweet. You can see it
amazing.
There. She liked it.
That's amazing.
That makes me so happy. Anyway, I want to meet Ilhan Omar. In fact, she's going on my top 10 list. Anyway, okay, so with that said, let's go to one more thing. We talked about the carrots. Let's potentially talk about the sticks. Should we be shaming people who don't get vaccinated? Some really don't like it. Hold. Here's Howard Kurtz.
I knew from the moment that CNN's Don Lemon denounced unvaccinated Americans for their idiotic behavior that we were headed into a surge of anger against those who haven't gotten the shots. That's why I played it last Sunday. Then the New York Times did a major piece on rising resentment among the vaccinated, but I say that's driven by the pundits.
If you're unvaccinated and you're going around without being tested, you are an arrogant, selfish SOB.
With COVID cases surging, I'm worried, I'm frustrated, I'm all for persuading and cajoling more of the 90 million unprotected Americans to get the vaccine. Their reluctance isn't just about politics, and the CDC's incredibly muddled messaging on masks is making things worse. But I'll tell you this about the unvaccinated. Ripping them and ridiculing them, slamming and shaming them isn't gonna work. It just ticks them off. And these piling on pundits ought to know better.
The teleprompter just kills me. But anyway, so Anna, I think I know what you think about that, but you tell me.
I think that, did we not just go through several years of literal adults moping around about participant trophies and how we need to baby children and we need to ensure that these kids, they get a little bit of that rough life, so they're not too soft by the time they're adults. These same people are like, don't shame me, Don't shame me for doing something incredibly irresponsible for myself and also the community around me. Don't shame me. Grow up. Grow up. Grow up. You can't handle it. You've made a decision. I don't care about your feelings. No one should care about their feelings, period. You don't want to get the vaccine? Fine. There are certain parts of society that you can't participate in because you've decided to be a child. But I'm not having a conversation about these people and their hurt feelings because they feel judged over doing something insanely irresponsible, something that harms themselves, harms the community around them. And let me also just address Howard Kurtz and his whining about the CDC's muddled message on masks. This is a worldwide pandemic, a global pandemic that is ever changing. We're talking about a virus that continues to mutate. And so the situation is fluid. And that means that the decisions the CDC makes, the actions we have to take are also fluid. If your brain is too slow to understand that it is a changing situation, an evolving, devolving situation, then you probably shouldn't be in the news. You probably shouldn't be in the news. There was a period of time where it seemed as though vaccinated people didn't need to wear masks indoors. Then we received more information indicating that vaccinated people, while it's very unlikely are gonna be hospitalized or die from the virus, are still likely to spread the virus. In fact, there was a recent report indicating that even vaccinated people have high levels of the virus in their nose and their throats, meaning that it's very easy for them to spread it to unvaccinated people and vaccinated people, right? So the point here is people who are vaccinated are resentful because we could have been at a point where no one needs to wear masks, where most people are vaccinated, we're at herd immunity, and we're all good. If you're vaccinated, you're very unlikely to get hospitalized or die. The reason why you have to wear a mask indoors now is to prevent unvaccinated people from getting incredibly sick and dying. That's why people are incredibly frustrated with this situation, because no one wants to wear masks. Let's keep it real. No one likes wearing masks. But we have to do it to protect our fellow Americans. And unfortunately, those are the fellow Americans who are whining and crying and bitching about the fact that they feel judged because they're doing something irresponsible. Guess what? Sure. Yes, you're being judged. Get over it. Be an adult.
See, and you're talking about not caring about their feelings. You know what doesn't care about their feelings? Facts. That's what I was told by conservatives.
I heard about that.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like your point about the participation trophy. Like, look, whether it's we can debate what's most persuasive, but the argument they're making now is 100% not compatible with how they've always acted about everything. So you're 100% right there. Also on the ever-changing advice from the CDC. Well, first of all, I'm sure it's being influenced by the fact that they know that right-wingers will freak out about anything they say. So that's an externality being put onto the CDC. But also, it's not just the advice that's changing, you dunces. The Delta variant is really bad, and it did not exist or wasn't common a year and a half ago. Like, the situation is changing. If the situation changes and the advice doesn't change to protect people's feelings, that seems weird. But really fast, so I think it's only natural when you're seeing these stories of people like, asking to be vaccinated at the last minute to be really mad about that, and the fact that it's affecting so many people and want to shame them. I will do, so you do that. I'm gonna do this one other thing, which is that I know that when people have been conned, when they've been brought into a cult, when they follow a grifter, it is very difficult to get out of that because of the fear of the social stigma, the shame, having to admit that you've been duped. People don't like that. That's why cons work for as long as they do. And so, like, if you are watching this somehow and you're in that, you might think, well, I don't want to admit that I was wrong. Like, it would be so embarrassing. But no, I understand why you'd feel that way. But that's not how you should think about it. You should think about it this way. You have been the target of a monumental amount of propaganda from millionaires and billionaires trying to convince you of insane things. If you can get out of that, that is amazing. That you as an individual could overcome this sustained year and a half long propaganda campaign to make you potentially get sick and die. It is an amazing thing if you can get out of that. And if you're surrounded by people that don't agree with you, even more amazing. That's not a reason to feel shame, to feel embarrassed. That is the best thing you can do at this point. And I will gladly welcome you Doesn't matter if you just decided, as I'm saying this right now, that you should take it seriously. You're one of us, okay? That's probably not gonna work either, but hopefully. So if you know someone who's not vaccinated, maybe share it with them. But anyway, that said, Anna, any final thoughts?
No, I think I made myself pretty clear.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did. Anyway, okay, so with that, we are going to take our second break. When we come back, we're gonna go to lighter, happier news. We're gonna be talking about Joe Manchin after this. Dun dun. That's a joke about Joe Manchin. Anyway, okay, so we had a big super chat from Franklin Sharp Slicer who says, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, insisting not to get the vax. It's their right to choose casket or an urn, because you lose. One more time the fact, vax it, mask it, or choose a casket. Dragon Daddy purple hair, Anna, you're next, double dog dare.
That was amazing. I think that was the best one yet. No,
that's pretty
Franklin
good.
Sharp Slicer, it gets better and better. I'm happy that TYT programming has given you an opportunity to really hone in on this skill of yours, because they just keep getting better, and I love it.
I wish that we had a collection of all of them. And I would also ask to Franklin, do you do poetry in other areas? I'm really curious because I assume you have to. But anyway, let's see some examples of that. A Florida Dragon says, thrilled to see the salty dragon. Happy belated birthday to Anna. And a few bucks to see Anna in a purple dragon tee. Thank you. Late bloomer with a big super chat saying, I tell my unvaxxed friends, you do you, boo. And if you die, I will still love you. Lauren McRae says purple tee for Anna. Thank you. Late bloomer says, wait, where do I get a purple dragon shirt? Well, I'm glad you asked, actually. shoptyt.com. Can we bring up the graphic? Do we have that? It's purple. It's a dragon. It's everything you want. And it's available at shoptyt.com. It looks like this. I love it. It's so cool. It's available in women's, in men's, I think V-neck. I know that's what Anna wants. So go take a look. Anyway, okay, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, now I am going to shop for the purple dragon t-shirt. I thought progressives should be cyan, but purple works too. Thank you for this special Anabolic Monday. Huh, not sure about that. Anna's got political steroids. Anyway, J-Dub says, not watching live, but I promised you a super chat last week, and here it is, a little late. Buying the purple dragon for my son, it's his favorite color, love you in purple. Thank you, J-Dub, that's very nice of you. Okay, well look, this is all basically the fault of Twitch. So let's see what's going on down there in Twitch land. Hazel Mel subscribed for 10 months, is looking good, guys. Thank you, Hazel Mel, you too. Okay, Brandy Lou subscribed for 11 months. Inked Betty Gaming for 9 says, I was a longtime TOT member online and stopped due to finances. So glad I've been able to support you all again. Love TDR morning, Dragon Squad. Thank you, thank you. And we very much support, very much appreciate that support, but you being here and watching is support too. Don't ever feel like it's not. A lot of people are going through hard times, and we totally understand that. Blue Tech the Belgian Dragon gifted 2 tier 1 subs. Thank you so much for that. If that's for me to dye my beard green or whatever, it's not happening, okay? But we appreciate the ambassadorship. Brandy Lou 2 gifted 5 tier 1 subs. Very nice of you. Blue Tech gifted 2 as well. Okay, we're down to 1 minute. Mandy Rock a Fire Dragon subscribed for 7 months, says, love your hair, enjoy your new purple pillow, sheets, shower, towels, shirt collars, etc. No, I didn't get it on the sheets. My wife made me sit still for the 30 minutes until I could wash it out. She was very careful about that, but yeah. Delta Quadrant Dragon, love the reference, subscribed for 5 months, says John dyeing his hair purple as promised is the reason why he's the absolute best. Anna is friggin' awesome either way. Oh, so she doesn't have to dye her hair. She just gets to be awesome.
I didn't like offer that as a, no,
I don't mean
to entice people.
I mean that you get to be awesome even without doing it. I need to do stunts to be awesome. Anyway.
You know what? How about this? Let me note a color I'd like to dye my hair as a, as a little bit of a carrot. I would like to do something about my roots, but I bet we can't get enough bits on Twitch for it. I bet we can't.
Okay, so the fact that you were saying that as we lost the break is really funny. Are you putting out a challenge, Anna Kasparian? Is that a challenge?
It's a bit of a challenge. I mean, I actually genuinely want to have unruly brunette roots, but I mean, the Twitch audience might force my hand if they provide enough bits,
And
that's how it works.
I think they're gonna see through that, but I appreciate it.
Of course.
And thank you everybody for being here. I did want to let you know that after the show, of course, indisputably, we've got another show coming. It's Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, and his co-host shall be, I don't know, it doesn't say in my document, but it's a mystery to all of us. So tune in to Indisputable right after this show to find out. Oh, by the way, tomorrow, kind of a big deal. It's the primary for Nina Turner. So Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, and Dr. Rashad Ritchie will be doing live coverage of Ohio's 11th congressional district race. You can tune in live at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on tyt.com/live, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. It's gonna be awesome. And I totally didn't even want to do it. You didn't even need to ask me because I didn't want to do it. It wouldn't have been really fun or anything. Anyway, no, I'm actually taking the day off. I'm taking the day off. Anyway, okay. But no, Nina Turner, for those of us who think that it's important for us to have good elected officials and haven't written off the whole thing of trying to push for progress, it would be awesome to have Nina Turner. So tomorrow's the day. Like Bernie was there, stumping for over the weekend. So we're gonna see, will the people power be able to overcome the millions of dollars that the super PACs have put in? Well, tune in tomorrow to find out. And that said, why don't we go into some other news? Oh, is that a Charlie I hear? I don't mind, by the way. Charlie would look cute, purple too, little purple tail. Anyway, let's talk about some news. President Manchin is in charge of the possibility of a number of different things passing, including the voting rights bills, the John Lewis bill, as well as the For the People Act, that month after month has passed and nothing has been done. So it seems as if for it to pass, there would need to be a carve out in the filibuster to allow it to pass with just a majority vote, Will Joe Manchin allow that? Well, here he is talking about it.
I know you want it to be bipartisan, but I don't know how possible that is. The only Republican I've heard talk about this in a positive way is Lisa Murkowski of Alaska.
I can't understand, Jake, and I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, but I cannot understand, how did they pass 98-0 in 2006, and now it's not possible for that to happen?
I don't know, but is there any circumstance under which you could imagine allowing a carve out for I know you oppose getting rid of the filibuster, but there's some people in the more moderate camp, like Angus King of Maine, who's an independent, who said that he's possibly willing to step back from the filibuster, his opposition to getting rid of the filibuster, just for voting rights, because he's so concerned and it's become so partisan. Can you imagine ever doing that?
Jake, I can't imagine a carve out, because I was here in 2013 when it was called a carve out. We're just going to do the cabinet for the president, and then it went into, we're going to do the judges who are lifetime appointments for circuit and district. They were even going to do Supreme Court, but they didn't at that time. The Democrats were in control. 2017, Mitch McConnell's in control, comes right back in, and guess what? That carve out worked to really carve us up pretty bad. Yeah. Then you got the Supreme Court, okay? So there's no stopping it. And if we don't put this place back in order, you get rid of the filibuster, which makes us work together.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts there, but Anna, you're the guest. I'll allow you to go first. What do you think?
We're talking about an incredibly important piece of legislation that helps to not just reform our elections, but to protect our democratic system, to protect our ability to vote, and to also, by the way, if we're having a conversation about the For the People Act, as opposed to just the Voting Rights Act that Manchin is advocating for, would actually address the issues of legalized bribery in the country as well. So this is not a discussion about some small piece of legislation. This is really about the future of the country and Americans' ability to participate in our electoral system. And for him to make an argument about like, oh, but the carve out, turns out that Republicans are much stronger than us and they know how to get what they want, and we're afraid of that happening again. So no, that's not really an argument. I don't see it as a valid argument. If anything, Manchin is essentially putting himself in the Democratic Party in a position of weakness and failure on behalf of Republicans in order to prevent the carve out that's necessary for this legislation, this important legislation to pass. And when you're leading from a place of weakness like that, you don't deserve to be a US senator. You just don't. He really doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's only the latest reason he doesn't deserve to be one, but you're totally right.
Yeah.
So two things I want to say about that. The first is he asks Jake Tapper the question, well, how is it that in 2006 we had 98 votes and now we can't? Stop asking rhetorical questions rather than answering them. I wish that I could ban people from asking rhetorical questions. You're a US senator. How is it that it supposedly would have gotten so much more support 15 years ago? Is it possible that the Republicans have gone, I almost swore, badass crazy? Is that possible? No, really, I want you to answer a question. I want you to answer that question in a way that does not obviously hint that we need to change the filibuster. Because if you think it was something that can be reversed, make that case. He never does. He just says, oh, it should be bipartisan. Okay, yeah, that would be nice. It's not going to. It's not going to be bipartisan. They're never going to pass it. You're never going to get 2, 3 Republicans, let alone the 10 you would need to pass it. So stop acting like a baby or acting like you think we are babies. And let's be serious about this because you have surrendered on this topic. And he talks about the carve-outs. His point was, look at how the carve-outs have expanded over time. They did it for the cabinet, then they did it for the judges, then Supreme Court judges. Now you want to do it for this? I will turn that on you. If there weren't those carve-outs, do you believe that any of those people would have been approved by this Republican Senate? Because I think you're crazy if you think that. He wouldn't have a cabinet, he wouldn't have any judges. The only reason any of that was done was because of the carve-outs, which doesn't hint that we need less carve-outs. It implies that it is the only solution to our problems because you're not gonna get that bill without the carve-outs. The only reason we can even have a probably pointless argument about infrastructure, which we're gonna have in a few minutes, is because that can go via reconciliation. And the second point about the carve-outs is he says, look, if we do it, they'll do it. I really don't think that that's the case because you carve out areas to pass without the filibuster if you have things you actually want to pass. And the Republicans don't. They don't want to pass anything. There's nothing they want to do that they can't already do. They can pass tax cuts without changing the filibuster. They can get their judges. Those are the only things they want. There's nothing else that they want to pass. The Supreme Court will give them all the social wins they want. They don't need to pass legislation. So he is wrong in like literally every way, Anna. But the problem is that we just keep fact checking, answering his arguments, trying to persuade people. But he's not able to be persuaded because he's not thinking about this. He's looking at donations and acting accordingly.
Right, and that's really at the heart of this issue. I think at this point, my ire is more directed toward the system in which and the way the media covers this situation, or like as if Manchin and other corporate Democrats in the Senate, whether it be Sinema, Tester, Warren, like acting as if they're acting in good faith, that their arguments are arguments that they're putting out there earnestly. When in reality, we know because of multiple pieces of evidence that we've gotten through wonderful reporting. One of the stories being from The Intercept, where you hear Joe Manchin talking to billionaire donors to tell them, look, I know that bipartisanship is BS. But can you just bribe my Republican colleagues to vote along with me in some of this other legislation to make it appear as though bipartisanship is possible, so I can continue on with this like total charade this total charade, like absolute nonsense? We know that he's fueled and motivated by the best interests of his corporate donors. That's really what's at the heart of the arguments he's making. It's not about the need for bipartisanship. It's not really because he's afraid of what Republicans can do in the future. It's really because he wants to provide some argument, some excuse, some cover for why the Democratic Party is going to be useless during this incredibly important time. That's what this is about. He's looking out for his corporate donors, period. He's not being a good faith actor here.
I agree. I think you're right. Okay, let's jump to a different topic. Actually, you know what? Let's go directly into this video.
Politico reports that when you brought up the federal deficit at a Democratic caucus luncheon on Tuesday, you were booed.
I'm not sure.
You were booed.
I heard a lot of no's. I don't know if it maybe is boo no or no boo or something.
Senator Joe Manchin is literally going with the "were you saying boo earns" line. No, they were not saying boo earns, they were booing you. Because now, as we're getting closer to supposedly going through this reconciliation thing, well, the deficit, Anna, the debt, think of the debt. We can't do anything. We can't deliver on our promises. And I don't even mean like Biden's promises. Joe Manchin, I will remind you, when Joe Biden came out with his like $2 trillion infrastructure deal or whatever, Joe Manchin was like, I'm cooler. I want 4 trillion in infrastructure spending. He never meant it, pretending you want more infrastructure. You've been trying to stop it every step of the way. But now he's very worried about debt. And more importantly, he is saying that we've got this bipartisan bill. It's totally awesome. Can't make any promises about the reconciliation one though. And so I want to go to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was asked about this. What happens if they don't pass a robust reconciliation bill?
We have to hold on to that. We have to hold on to that bargain. If there is not a reconciliation bill in the House, and if the Senate does not pass the reconciliation bill, we will uphold our end of the bargain and not pass the bipartisan bill until we get all of these investments in. And I want to be clear that the investments in the bipartisan bill are not all, candy land. There are some of these quote unquote pay-fors that are very alarming that we need to see the language on. For example, some of the language around privatizing public infrastructure, putting toll roads, leasing public infrastructure to private entities are very concerning and should be concerning to every American. So we really need to see that language and see what's put in there until it reaches, when it reaches the House. Bipartisan doesn't always mean that it's in the interest of the public good, frankly. Sometimes there's a lot of corporate lobbyist giveaways in some of these bills.
Sometime, like in the bipartisan one right now. So Anna, she's saying we have enough people, we can tank this. He's saying he cannot promise that the reconciliation bill will pass, which from him seems like I will definitely kill it. And she says, in that case, we're not getting either. What do you think's gonna happen?
I think this is a fascinating game of chicken, and the Democrats, the progressive Democrats in the House should absolutely carry out the threats that AOC mentioned in that interview with Jake Tapper. Because so far, the person who has won the game of chicken has been Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is the one who managed to get all sorts of concessions on behalf of the Republican Party in the final coronavirus relief bill during the Biden administration. And guess what? He did that in the name of bipartisanship. And how many Republicans voted for it? Zero. We know what Manchin's doing here. He's looking out for his corporate donors. And what AOC mentioned there in regard to privatizing public infrastructure is a real concern. Yeah,
you're 100% right. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I really wish that we could talk more about this, but we of course will as we get closer to that reconciliation bill. So anyway, everybody watching on the linear platform, thank you so much for watching. For those of you on Twitch or on YouTube, we do have a lot more news. We're gonna take a short break, but we'll be back on the other side of this. Hello there, YouTube and Twitch. We've got some more news for you. I'm John Iadarola. Anna Kasparian joins me today. Yes, that Anna Kasparian. How's it going, Anna?
Good, good.
How's your dog?
He's good. He's next to me. He's on guard. Ready to protect.
Okay. Well, I miss him. Please tell him that. I'm sure he misses me too. Anyway, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you to Abelina Sabrina for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. That's funny. So Sabrina's, of course, the reason my hair is purple like this. Hers is, I think she wears it better. I think. Maybe we'll have a poll. Let's put up a poll on Twitch. Who wears it better, me or Brina? I think I know where that's gonna go. But anyway, Franklin sent in a super chat saying, Anna, you've been issued a double dog dare regarding some purpley hair. I add the dare to Dragon Jenk. He always escapes, so he thinks. Add JR to the mix selected. How about if Nina gets elected? Everybody on the team gets purple hair if Nina Turner becomes a congresswoman. Anyway, let's see. Tyler says, John, your purple hair is muy bonita. Will you call me mamacita? No, but thank you for that. That was fun. T. Shara says, purple is the color of cancer awareness. When my dad passed of pancreatic cancer 9 years ago, purple became my favorite color. Good job, John. 100% dragon. Thank you. I didn't know that, but that's a good point. Okay, Textan says, Anna is just what I needed on a Monday. Some salt dragon with my breakfast tacos. Oh, that sounds so good right now. I could really go for some breakfast tacos. Anyway, Aneka Brimhall says, AKA Dragon Muddy, I finally bought one of your shirts, the purple dragon. Thanks for dyeing your hair my favorite color. Thank you, that's very nice of you. It is available at shoptyt.com, everybody. And let's see, over on Twitch, DD Reggae subscribed for 8 months, thank you. Gianthro subscribed for 10 months. Wait, today is special for another reason I didn't know yet. It is the birthday of the one, the only Bart, the music man, the sonic dragon, the guy who brings us the awesome beats, especially on the main show where he keeps Anna rocking with smooth something house. I don't know what's the term for the stuff you like, but
it's deep house, deep house.
Deep house. There you go. Smooth yes. Deep house. That's not a thing, but it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Bart.
Happy birthday, Bart.
That's awesome. Everybody in the chat, let him know that you're thinking of him. Izzy Omega subscribed for 14 months. Damn, that's about as much as anyone almost. And One Chance gifted 10 subs to the community. Thank you so much. But there's no more die, no matter how much you gift. But anyway, thank you. With that, why don't we talk a little bit about the Olympics? An Olympic athlete is now requesting asylum after her team officials tried to fly her back to Belarus for criticizing her coaches for negligence in an Instagram post. Criticizing her officials, that's about as deep as it went. And she has been like taken into custody effectively and worried about the long-term political ramifications of this. This is the madness that's going on right now. The athlete's name is, and I'm going to do my best with this, Kristina Stepanuskaya. She criticized Belarusian Olympic officials for allegedly telling her once she was already in Tokyo that she must run the 4x400 meter relay after other members of the team were found ineligible due to not completing the proper doping testing. She was scheduled to compete in the women's 200 meter race on Monday, but said coaches came to her room Sunday and told her to pack immediately. She said she'd been placed in the 4x400 relay despite never racing the event before or being trained for it. After being hustled away and stopped in competing in the event that she was actually supposed to compete in, she sought the protection of Japanese police at the airport so she would not have to board the flight back home. In a video circulating across social media, Stepanuskaya said she was put under pressure by team officials and asked the International Olympic Committee for help, saying I've been pressured and they're trying to take me out of the country without my consent, so I'm asking the IOC to intervene. I will not return to Belarus. And of course, the Belarusian president Lukashenko has had quite a bit of reason for people to be worried about him and his regime and what they might do to their critics, Anna. So this is not a development I expected in the Olympics, but I totally understand why she would be worried about being sent back home.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough to comment on the situation on the ground in Belarus, but the one thing I will say is, part of what gets sold to the American people, not just the American people, but to a world stage in regard to the whole point of the Olympics. It's supposed to be a way for each country to just kind of like show off, right? Like these are our athletes. Look at the amazing things that we can accomplish. It's like a bit of a PR move for many of the countries involved. And it doesn't bode well for Belarus when one of their Olympians decides to seek asylum and refuse to return home. So, I think that that's an incredibly difficult decision to make. It's not a decision that people make lightly. And so if she feels unsafe, I hope that she is granted asylum and does find some safety.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, to remind people, it wasn't that long ago. It was just May when a dissident journalist was arrested after his flight from Greece to Lithuania was diverted and forced to land in Belarus under the pretext of a bomb threat. And not long after that, if I remember correctly, and everyone should definitely look into this, he put out a video like taking back his criticisms, and God only knows what would have led to that. So yes, as Anna points out, it's obviously a complex situation, but I am glad that seemingly there are people internationally that are willing to help this athlete. And I will also say it's obviously a different situation with far different stakes, but like we have people in like some of the biggest media platforms in our country every day attacking our Olympic athletes for believing or protesting in a way that they don't like. There's just this overall level of a complete lack of willingness to let people just live and do what they're doing. Like she wasn't criticizing the regime. She criticized the officials like in her Olympic group there. That's it. It was no broader than that. But this is how things can balloon. But that said, we do have one other Olympic story to get to. A little bit more positive news, at least I think for both of us. 2 Olympic high jumpers were able to share the gold medal. The first time in over a century that this has actually happened. So let's talk about how we got to this. So in the Olympic high jump final, an athlete from Qatar, an athlete from Italy, both cleared 2.37 meters, but failed to reach 2.39 meters on all 3 tries. But instead of settling with a jump off in which the bar is gradually lowered until just one of the 2 clears it, the athlete from Qatar, Barsham, asked the referee if they could share the gold instead. The referee said yes. The 2 athletes are apparently friends and have been for some time. They shook hands and embraced each other, crying and jumping with joy to celebrate their shared win. Overcome with emotion, the Italian high jumper collapsed onto the track field. You can see a picture there of what led to this. The double gold was made possible by a technical rule that said if no jump off is carried out, including where the relevant athletes at any stage decide not to jump further, the tie for first place shall remain. And the last time an Olympic gold medal was shared was 109 years ago at the 1912 Stockholm Summer Games. Hugo Weislander from Sweden and Jim Thorpe of the US shared first place at the decathlon, as did athletes in the pentathlon. So Anna, that's a cute development. I like that.
I think it kind of sucks. Like no one wants to tie for gold. So, but okay, great.
Didn't expect that reaction. But there's more background. They've apparently like competed against each other, trained with each other for like a decade. They apparently have helped each other get over injuries before and get back into the sport. I think it's kind of beautiful that they get to share it after that shared experience. No?
I mean, I love that they're friends. I love that they're besties, and that's good. And you should be willing to be friendly with those you compete with. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know. Do they feel great about tying for gold? If they do,
I mean,
wonderful.
They lost it. They were like crying. They were so happy.
Yeah. Okay. I guess if they're happy, they're happy. Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward to a couple years from now.
I don't love it though.
Anna and I are going to be like, we're going to both be running for like a Webby or something. And I'm gonna be like, hey, in the interest of progressive unity, why don't we share it? And I'm gonna get a shiv in the back. Anna's not the sharing type.
No, well, let me just say, I would not appreciate you. Let's say it's like an award, right? And you win the award. If you went up on that stage, you're like, I want to share it with my good friend Anna. Like it would be very sweet, and it's totally something you would do. But I'd be mad at you for doing it. Like it's embarrassing. Don't do that.
Would you be more mad if you were the one that behind the scenes was supposed to win it, and I was preemptively sharing it?
That would make it worse. Yeah, that would make it worse.
Well, I will tread carefully, Salt Dragon. Anyway, okay, with that, unfortunately, what I thought to be good news, we're gonna turn to something that is never the source of good news. Let's go right into this video.
I mean, you've had all the experts say, well, look out for the Delta variant or the Lambda variant. Next is gonna be like the Chi Omega variant or the Pi Kappa Psi variant. I got the Florida variant. I got the freedom variant. It affects the brain. It gets you to think for yourself.
Okay, so that's Matt Gaetz. He's human garbage. He's human garbage in both shoes. That's all that he is and all that he ever will be. He's a grifter, not a particularly intelligent one. But Anna, he's of course saying that in Florida, he's talking about the Florida variant. Florida, of course, was the site of now record high cases and hospitalizations. With a disease that can cause long-term symptoms, including to your brain. So when he says he has it on the brain, it seems as if what he was saying was perfectly designed, scripted to make him look like a complete dunce. But he seems to have missed that particular irony.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are dying. We have tens of thousands of people hospitalized in Florida because they contracted the Delta variant. And it's not funny, it's not funny, it's not cute. What's really shameful is just how far elected members of Congress are willing to go for their own personal grift, even as people are dying from this deadly virus. I'm exhausted by it. I'm so exhausted by it. And thinking for yourself means ignoring the nonsense coming from members of Congress, especially GOP members of Congress, like Matt Gaetz, who are currently facing an FBI investigation for allegedly paying to traffic a minor across state lines for the purposes of sex. So that's a federal crime. That's what the DOJ is investigating him for. He's not a credible person, and he certainly isn't a medical professional or expert. He is, in my opinion, intentionally lying to the American people about the reality of this virus, and people are gonna die as a result. He's an awful, awful person, period.
You're 100% right. He's been doing this from the very beginning. Remember, he wore the gas mask on the House floor. So it was a joke to him then. Something like, I think, I'm gonna guess 40,000 dead Floridians, like a sports stadium full of Floridians have died. It's still a joke. He's the joke. The joke is unfortunately on Florida though, because they're experiencing so much COVID. He still has supporters, as you say. Like he still gets tons of donations. People don't seem to get it. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to include this was I wanted to add a little bit of good news that while he unfortunately is still very successful, they still like him. And he's still trying to misinform them, and he's trying to get them to be open to getting infected when he's probably vaccinated himself. The good news is that if you look at the last week or so of vaccination rates at the state level, a number of different states, including Florida, Texas, Missouri, some of the hardest hit states, have been doing more vaccinations per day. It's not as high as the peak, but they have been starting to go up. So it's not enough, and it's too late, unfortunately, for a lot of the people who will eventually get sick and die. But the fact that we're talking about the Delta variant, the fact that we're talking about the need to be vaccinated is working objectively. If you look at the data, more people are getting vaccinated, so that is certainly good. But his grift is just gonna keep on going on, and I don't know. Maybe he'll end up in jail for the other things that he's done, but it is disappointing to see him making a joke out of something that is still killing people. Yeah. Anyway, and can I say one other thing? He talks about like thinking for yourself. Here's the thing. Maybe this is inconvenient. Nobody is thinking for themselves in this, and you know why you shouldn't think for yourself? Because nobody, me, Anna, nobody watching this makes vaccines or studies the virus. It's pretty rare. You're either listening to the scientists, the authorities, or you're listening to Tucker Carlson and Matt Gaetz. That's what you're doing. This is not a free thought thing. This isn't improv. This isn't like mushrooms fueled interpretive dance. Nobody's just like twist into their own rhythm. You're out there gathering data. Like the fact that they're trying to elevate this to some sort of like patriotic individualistic thing. No, you're literally clapping to what a congressman says to you. That is the opposite of thinking freely. So just putting that out there. But anyway, Anna, we've got one more story to do. I am gonna read a couple of super chats before we get into that. I also want to read a Twitch comment from Consume Shrooms, oddly enough, based on what I just said, who says, Anna is the decider of who gets cookies and who doesn't. That has been long established, obviously. Let's see, Red Cat wants a purple wig that I guess Anna can wear it, Jank can wear. I'd love to see Jank with some nice purple locks. We're gonna work on that. Okay. Altec Phoenix says, how much do we need to get for goth Anna? Well, Anna, you've had dark hair before. You've had pretty dark hair, if I remember correctly.
It's not that dark. I mean, it's just my natural hair color.
Brown, yeah, the darkest it's been was your natural. Okay, I thought it was darkened. Okay, let's see. Noelia says, wow, Congress is passing that hot potato and no one wants to catch it and feel the burn. Well, we need to make sure that they feel the burn. They can keep passing it around, but we need to make sure that people know who was right on this and who was not. May Money Debility, hey May Money says, you know what, John, I thought I was gonna hate it, but I don't. Granted, the only purple I'll be having is in my Bleezy. Rock the hair, John, rock it. Nice. Okay, let's see. Nicole Smith says, my tiny rural county reported 45 new cases in a single day last week, shaking my head, holding my breath and hoping no deaths follow. That's very sad. Yeah, I apologize. There's a lot of super chats today. I read everyone, but we can't necessarily read them all live. And I will say, like, the cases are going up. The fear is that it will. The next step is hospitalizations, which are going up. I still hold out hope that deaths will never rise to the level they were at during the winter because of the vaccination, the fact that so many older people are vaccinated. But that said, there are going to be more deaths. This month will be worse than last month. That is my fear. So please get vaccinated if you're not already. Now that said, why don't we jump into our last story of the day? I want to talk about the exoneration of an individual who had spent literally decades in prison for a crime he did not commit. This is Curtis Crosland, and his conviction originally was based on testimony from two witnesses who later recanted statements they had made implicating him in the case. It was overturned back in June. Now, he was found guilty way back in 1991 of second-degree murder, robbery, and possessing an instrument of crime in a 1984 killing of a Philadelphia store owner. So he had been convicted 30 years ago. He's a 60-year-old individual. So he has spent half of his life in prison for a crime that he did not do. The exoneration came only after months of work by the Philadelphia Conviction Integrity Unit, established in 2018 by the Office of Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, a name that we've talked about a number of times on the show. The unit was set up to investigate claims of innocence and wrongful conviction. Crosland's is the 22nd exoneration in which the unit has been involved in the last 3 years. And by the way, of Curtis Crosland, he maintained his innocence while he was in prison, filed multiple petitions, acting as his own lawyer, which he says he learned to do while studying law books in the prison's library, like almost something out of a movie or a TV show. He actually did that. He said, I don't think I ever had a full night's sleep. He was working so hard to overturn it, but I always told myself the day I'm exonerated, I'm going to get my full night's sleep. So we'll have a bit from him in a minute, Anna, but basically for much of our entire lives, this individual, Curtis Crosland, has been in prison. And the last point I want to say before I turn it to you is that the evidence basically proof that would eventually be used to exonerate him in June of this year was available to the police unit that got him convicted from the very beginning for 30 years. They had all the evidence that the eyewitness testimony was incredibly questionable and was recanted, both of them, that there was no specific evidence linking him to this crime. It was just the two people who recanted their testimony. They knew for 3 decades as this guy sat in prison saying that he hadn't done it the whole time.
It's cases like these that convince me that I'm on the right side in regard to the death penalty, because as we know, the criminal justice system has not been a system of justice for so many people in the United States. And there have been so many death row inmates who have been exonerated following, DNA evidence. And they could have been killed by the state or by the federal government for a crime they did not commit. In this case, we're talking about a man who had 34 years of his life robbed from him. And since his freedom was robbed for 34 years. I think it's only right that for anyone who was involved in his prosecution, who had access to that evidence that they refused to use, in order to clear him of any wrongdoing, any of those people who are still alive deserve to have their freedom robbed from them because of what they've done. But the conversation never gets there. Usually the conversation is, oh wow, it's so awful that this happened. But he's free now, and the question is, does he deserve any, financial settlement as a result of what happened to him? But that's it. The conversation always ends there. The very prosecutors who were involved in this, who had access to that evidence, who knew about that evidence but refused to use it to clear this man of wrongdoing, deserve to be in prison today.
Yeah, and as you point out, they won't. Like, what's the worst that could happen? First of all, nothing will happen. But what's the worst that could happen? I don't know. Effectively nothing. So, like the people who allowed this to happen 30 years ago, like the generation of people in these same positions right now will do the same thing. Like if it makes them look better, getting a conviction saying they've solved a crime, if there's no consequences for them, why wouldn't they do it? Exactly. Never mind the fact that the man has lost half of his life. Never mind the fact that I'm assuming they stopped looking for the actual killer when they locked up the wrong one, and that this crime was done as well. But look, I want to read a little bit from Curtis. What he said after he got out. He said, I feel exceedingly joyful, happy that finally, after 30 or more years, after constantly knocking on the door for somebody to please hear me, that day finally came. He has since returned home to his 5 children, a fiance, and 32 grandchildren. It's a great feeling to still be a dad, to be wanted and desired, and open arms to receive you. That's been the greatest part of being exonerated, that I come home to a loving family that wants and needs me. And it's just devastating. Obviously, for many, they'll fear that people won't believe them when they say that they're innocent. And so it's great that he's belatedly trying to restart his life and has people who support him. These sorts of groups, like Krasner set up, need support. There's some, the Innocence Project and things like that. We need to be looking into these because we cannot simply trust anyone involved in this system. That said, Anna Kasparian, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. It was fun, John. Love your hair. Looks great.
I had forgotten, actually. Thank you for reminding me. Everybody watch Anna Kasparian on the Young Turks later on today. It's gonna be an awesome show, I'm sure. And for those of you watching at home, thank you for supporting us, for cursing me with this hair. Those of you who gifted all those subs last week, really do appreciate it. Again, shout out to Abelina Sabrina on Twitch for getting this started. So definitely go support her. If you're interested in rocking the purple and showing some solidarity with either my hair or I feel like progressivism, I feel like purple is for progress, could be a thing. You can go to shoptyt.com and the shirt is now available. You can look at it, it's awesome. I think it's the best one. I think tomorrow on the show we should have a poll as to which is the best shirt. But I think this one's gonna win. So that is available. Anyway, in just a couple minutes after this break, Dr. Rashad Ritchie is gonna be going live with Indisputable. You're not gonna wanna miss that. But and by the way, tomorrow, very exciting. I'm not gonna be here, I'm out for the day, but J.R. Jackson is going to be hosting the show. So please show up, watch, show him some support. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, let's get it. Welcome, indisputable. Good to be with you, ladies and gentlemen. I got a packed show today. My co-host is Dr. Rashad Richard, host of Indisputable. I will be your co-host and host, breaking down news of the day. We've done this before, no biggie. My debate guest coming into the bullpen is none other than Dr. Carol Lieberman. She calls herself America's psychiatrist. She holds a medical degree. She also has a master of public health. And she's going to talk about white guilt, wokeness, and she has insinuated that Joe Biden has dementia. So we're going to debate some of those topics in the bullpen. I already know it's going to be a debate. It's going to be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, my top story of the day. This is one of the most remarkable stories you will ever hear in your life. An incarcerated man who has been locked up for 26 years, still incarcerated today, has just won elected office. I kid you not. This is in Washington, D.C. D.C. has a law that allows for this to happen. Here's the first video.
But now one convicted felon in the nation's capital is fighting back from the inside, showing the power of rehabilitation and making political history in the process. Here's our Devin Dwyer.
From his cell block inside D.C. jail, Joel Castone is forging a new path to redemption.
One of my primary jobs is not only mentoring, but also being able to give you all wholesome content. Money coming in.
He teaches economics, leads Christian worship, and mentors dozens of fellow inmates in a program he helped create. And this spring, he turned to politics.
Who are your constituents? Who are the people that you're representing?
Yes, my constituents, first and foremost, the largest voting bloc of my constituents are incarcerated people.
After 27 years locked up for murder as a teenager, Castone launched a campaign for a seat on D.C.'s Advisory Neighborhood Commission and won, becoming the first person in the nation's capital to win election while incarcerated.
He got caught up when he was a teenager. He was a drug dealer. He was a gunman. He admits to his wrongdoings. Because of a law in D.C., and I'm actually for this law, you've heard me talk about it before. D.C. allows anyone to still participate in local elections. DC is not the only city that allows this, but it's definitely the largest. Now, here's the other part of this story. In 1994, it was in the same part of DC that as a teenager, swept up in a culture of drugs and guns, Castone was arrested and later convicted of the shooting death of another young black man, 18-year-old Rafiq Washington. It is important to note right here, the family of that deceased young man from all of those years ago actually endorsed Joel to become a commissioner in DC. Less than 1% of the nation's estimated 1.8 million incarcerated residents have the right to cast ballots from behind bars, according to the Sentencing Project, a fact that sets the US apart from many large democracies. There's more to this story. Here it is.
Maybe he's gonna take that experience and share how he got through it, and so others won't have to. That would be good.
Some people are gonna look at this with disdain, but a lot of people are gonna think this is somebody who's really taking a step in the right direction.
His district includes DC's jail, a nearby women's shelter, and this luxury apartment complex he's never seen.
Wow. Now, the reporter posed the question to Joel and said, how can you represent people that you have never seen? So we know that he's seen the jail population, but he represents that actual district. And he had a great answer. His answer was basically, I'm going to make sure I utilize the power of convening, meeting with people, building coalitions. But here's the truth, here's the other side of that answer. You got plenty of politicians that don't meet with all of their constituents. They don't give a damn about all of their constituents. They care about a certain segment. Joel Castone cared about all of his constituents, ran a successful campaign while being incarcerated. Now he's a commissioner in DC politics. While incarcerated, 27 years, he has taught himself Mandarin, French, Spanish, and Arabic. He also has a curriculum of books to help inmates understand how to invest their money so that their families are empowered by their new knowledge. He saw deficiencies in the prison system and he started to fix them. Now, these individuals have the right to vote and they have the right to represent others. Well, I can tell you this, here's what I know off the bat. Nobody's going to corrupt that brother. You understand? Nobody's going to come in with a bunch of flashy dollars and corrupt his decisions. He is accountable directly to the people who elected him. There's more. Here's another video.
Castone has taught himself Arabic and Mandarin, studies the Bible in French and Spanish, and has published a curriculum of books to help inmates learn the basics of investments and savings.
We want people on the inside thinking like citizens, and it seems oxymoronic, right? However, if we can get them thinking this way while they're in the inside, the overarching goal is that will be the mindset on the outside.
Remarkable, remarkable. It makes more sense than the current government stance as it relates to incarcerated individuals in the United States of America. Statistics prove that individuals who are civically engaged as incarcerated people, they have a lower chance of reoffending after they are released. But we want to disconnect them from civic engagement. People that have learned new skills while being incarcerated have a lower chance of reoffending, or the recidivism rate drops when you have these programs inside of your prison facilities. And remember, he didn't wait for a program to do this. He started these programs as a single individual inside of prison. Think about how many people he has touched. How many men have come through that facility? They have now learned how to invest. They've learned a different language. They've learned how to do things better. They've learned how to self-discipline. They've learned things. And then when they go back into free society, they have now brought the power of that knowledge with them. I dare to say that Joel Castone has already changed the lives of many just by having this kind of program inside of that facility for decades. He is serving 28 years. He's at 27. He's going to be released this year, hopefully. That is the hope. He gets out this year, but he will be on parole when he is released. Here's some more background to how we do incarceration in America. In most places, you don't lose your humanity, you don't lose your civil rights, social rights, political rights when you're incarcerated, said Mark Howard, director of the Prison and Justice Initiative at Georgetown University, whose research shows civic engagement in prison can reduce recidivism. Howard said it's also a matter of racial justice. 1 in 16 Black American adults is disenfranchised because of a conviction. 1 in 16. A rate 3.7 times higher than among non-blacks. The Sentencing Project found in a 2020 report. Wow, this is called fixing the problem. And here's another thing. If we really care about the treatment of everyone, including those who are incarcerated individuals, then having people who are incarcerated be able to interact with democracy, to have civic engagement opportunity, that is a very good way to hold politicians accountable to everybody in their district, everybody. When he's released on parole, expected later this year, Castone said he intends to lobby for greater enfranchisement of Americans behind bars, even as the idea remains highly controversial. It's only controversial in America. It's controversial here in this country because most of your major democracies, industrialized nations, they allow incarcerated individuals to still participate in democracy. So what we have considered to be a taboo discussion, what we have considered to be settled societal construct, the truth is our democracy is not as democratic as some other democracies that we criticize. Shifting stories. Ladies and gentlemen, a Wendy's worker got suspended after she was called the B word by her white male manager or by a white male manager. Let me first just take you to the video.
True to clean, it means to fucking clean, bitch.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I got you on camera, Mike.
And you're
I got you on camera, Mike. Guess what, Mike? That's the end of the road, Mike.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
That's the last time. Yeah. Look how disrespectful he is. I'm gonna send this video to Lisa. I'm sorry, Lisa. But this is how your other managers treat me.
I have a right to disrespect you.
You have a right to disrespect what, Mike? I couldn't hear you. Say it again louder for the camera. Say it again. Thank you. We appreciate you.
You have no permission to record me.
I don't know. We in public right now.
No, we're not.
We in public. This is a public restaurant, right? Anybody else working in a public restaurant? Michael has been screaming at me for about 5 minutes straight. Michael is power tripping.
Yeah, it's the end, Mike. Yeah, she got you, Mike, because of who you are. Here's a little more background. This young lady, her name is Sophia Cargill. This young lady is actually a general manager in training. Mike is an assistant manager. According to her, Mike did not want her to receive this promotion being a general manager at Wendy's. He didn't want this to happen. So he started verbally abusing her, trying to embarrass her, creating a hostile work environment as evidenced by the recording she was able to provide. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's no setup here. She did not do something to incite him. He manages this way. This is what he decided to do, to call a young black female who was about to receive a promotion beyond his own capacity. He calls her the B word in front of everybody multiple times. He also called her an F and B word, and he called her a communist B word. Yeah, that's what he said. Sophia Cargill from Kalamazoo, Michigan, posted the video on TikTok and Instagram under the handle Mon3ADATMAC to report her hostile work environment and is now planning legal action. Well, good for her on the legal action. Let me remind you of some of the things Mike, the assistant manager, said. You're effing lazy. Mike continues her verbal assault. You're supposed to help staff, not delegate. She is a general manager in training, by the way. The video ends with Cargill and Mike arguing about cleaning the frosting machine as he calls her an effing communist little effing B word. Does that sound familiar? I'm talking about the language of him calling a black person a communist. This is a non-political argument here. And you have used the B word to refer to this young black female who's in training to be a general manager, which means she has brought her A game to that job, by the way. If you're training to be a general manager of any industry, you have been selected because of the A game that you bring. You were jealous. Then you call her a communist. You know, the only people that I know who continue to call folks communist in this country are Trump supporters. I said it, it's true. Where did he get this from? He's walking around trying to bully a young black female. There's more. So after she brought this to the attention of her manager, after that, do you think Mike was fired? No. She did an update and she said after meeting with corporate, they suspended her without pay and then they allowed Mike to continue to work. They allowed him to come to work, to do his job, no penalty, no repercussion, nothing. And then that video started going viral. I posted the video on my Twitter feed as well. I saw the numbers continuing to increase. Now, Wendy's They have now seen the light. They have seen the light. They have recognized the error of their ways. So Cargill said she was suspended without pay for reporting the hostile work environment and was raising funds to help pay her monthly bills as she wasn't sure of returning to Wendy's and was planning on taking legal action. The page has already amassed close to 11,000 in donations. I was on it earlier today. It was over 12,000 when I was on it. It's a very easy page to find. You just type in her name, Sophia Cargill, and all of the information comes up on that GoFundMe page. In another follow-up video, Cargill confirmed that Mike had been fired from the job. Finally, it took all of that. But Mike has now been fired from the job, and the area manager asked her to return to work on Monday. However, she says she was upset because she used Wendy's open door policy to report her mistreatment by another manager and was retaliated against by the fast food chain's higher management. Sophia, don't you dare go back to that job. Don't you dare return. It sounds like she does have legal representation because in her follow-up video, she said the right things. Here it is. Okay, we don't have the second one. Okay, so in the follow-up video, she broke it down that she, in fact, was in a hostile work environment, ding. That she was retaliated against for telling the truth, ding. And that this was a violation of Wendy's open door policy that allows for these types of complaints to be reported and for the employee who reports them to be protected. Ding, you got it again. So here's what went down. You have a fast food restaurant who already knew this cat was problematic because complaints were logged before. Now you have a video. She records this out of control individual, makes the report, has the video, goes to corporate. Now remember, she's a general manager in training. Okay, this is a person that others in corporate believe in, at least to some degree. But when she walked into that office as a black female who had been verbally assaulted by this white male employee, she was the one suspended, not him. I don't want you to give Wendy's a round of applause. I don't. The reason why this cat is suspended or fired today is because of the power of social media and you. That's why. But I guarantee you, if she did not have this video, this would have been a different outcome. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive, and you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking, like the one and only Nina Turner at our rallies. Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail, with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge, and so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation, where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're gonna do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress, and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. With #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing, and thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
All right, welcome back to Indisputable. We have a lot to cover. Let me read some of these viewer comments, and you guys are coming in hot and heavy. Remember to always follow us on social media, Indisputable TYT. That's YouTube. You can join that, subscribe, but make sure you follow us on social media at Indisputable TYT, Twitter, Instagram, make it happen. Also hashtag Indisputable TYT on social media so we can follow your comments about the program. All right, TYT member Neon Gremlin says, a very optimistic Monday served in a reality salt-rimmed glass. To you, Dr. Rashad Ritchie, excited for the show. Well, I'm excited that you're excited. I really am. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. How can you represent people you haven't seen? Question mark. Hell, the vast majority of legislators in Congress refuse to acknowledge their constituents even exist or matter. Excellent point. Diana, I'm reminded of a news segment show showing the utter disdain Lindsey Graham showed a constituent who tried to talk to him about a concern. The man wasn't a big donor, so Graham had no time for him. I have faith in Castone. He has been transformed. What better than Castone to represent underrepresented, incarcerated people? Thank you, Double R. This story brings me hope. Brings me hope too. Suzanne, Dr. Richard, can I buy a shirt or sweatshirt for your show? It's coming. Dan, I literally just had a meeting about this last week on Friday. I promise you, those things are coming, okay? All right, YouTube, super chat. The demonstratively Dougie Dragon, all right. Dr. R, This story has given me hope for humanity. I am so proud of the family that endorsed him, even though he took their son all those years ago. We must get to a restorative justice system. You know, the family recognized that everybody was a kid. He was a kid. Who he killed was a kid. And they were living in an atmosphere created and designed to ensure that they could not progress. And now you know better, you do better, and he's done that. He has been redeemed, at least according to the family and those who now support him. So very good point. Charles Massey, looks like Mike needs to buy a neck too. All right, I'm not doing the no neck jokes no more. I offended somebody and it hurt my feelings that they were offended. Okay, Samira or Chimera, maybe Chimera. Yeah, are they real yet? Have we discovered them? I was a single mom working in an office. Manager tried to choke me out. Damn, a dozen witnesses. I was forced off my job. Manager has her job 15 years later. That's unbelievable, but believable. Mackenzie J. Alleman. Yay, one of my favorite co-hosts. Thank you for that. That was nice. Dragon Dane says, hi Doc, love you and your show, my favorite 100. Dragon, love you back. Cryptician, DC is where black folk go hard, go strong, and go straight to the top. Ashley Turner, that's right. Do you, Custone? What an amazing turnaround. Amen to him, and proof that people can change. And remember, it wasn't just people in jail that voted for him. People outside of that community, they supported him too. They were very supportive of his campaign. About the Wendy situation. David Morris, yes, you go girl, use technology to turn the tables. Now I tell people all the time, the unsung hero in many of these stories is the smartphone. He'd record, use it. You never know when it will come in handy, okay? Every time I see a police officer, when they are interacting with a citizen, I will stop doing what I'm doing and I will make sure that I hit that record button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, very disturbing story, but we may see sweet justice here. A South Carolina cop has been arrested after stumping on a man's neck. Former Orangeburg, South Carolina police officer, his name is David Lance Dukes, was arrested and charged with first-degree assault. Put up his picture. That's him. Dukes had allegedly stomped on the neck-head region of a damn near 60-year-old man, Clarence Gilliard, while responding to a 911 call last Monday. He is facing up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Here's the man that he decided to assault. That's him. That's Mr. Gilliard, 58 years of age. And he was stomped, kicked to the head and neck region by that police officer who has now been fired. According to Mr. Gilliard's attorney, Justin Bamberg, Gilliard suffered an acute head injury following that encounter. Here are the details of the incident. On July 26th, Dukes was on patrol as an Orangeburg Department of Public Safety officer and responded to a call for service at an apartment complex. SLED agent said in an arrest warrant. Dukes pulled out his gun and ordered Gilliard to the ground. While Gilliard was on his hands and knees in a defenseless position, Dukes raised his leg and forcibly stomped with his boot on the victim's neck and or head area, according to the warrant. Gilliard's head hit the concrete. Paramedics took Gilliard to a hospital with a contusion on his head. The warrant said Dukes stomping on the man was likely to produce death or great bodily injury. What's going on with these guys, right? What's going on with them? You see, I hear when people say, just comply with the officer. But time and time again, you see that compliance does not equate to a decent outcome with the police. According to the narrative here, this older gentleman, one of our elders among us, he complied. He complied. And still received an injury from a police officer that could have killed him or severely injured him. Now, any executive in law enforcement or any member of law enforcement would tell you that there are red zones in the body, on the body. And these red zones are places where if you strike an individual at this particular location on their body, you're doing it and it could kill them and you know it. The head and the neck, they are considered one of those red zones. This officer has been arrested. Put up his picture again. David Lance Dukes is his full name. Here's what happened to his victim. Mr. Gilliard suffers from mobility issues after being struck by a car a couple of years ago. Officer Dukes ordered my client and another individual to get on the ground, but because of my client's disability, he's relatively slow. He was trying to get down as fast as he could. South Carolina Law Enforcement Division investigated Dukes at the request of Orangeburg Public Safety Department. The department terminated this 38-year-old David Lance Dukes on Wednesday for the alleged repeated use of excessive force in dealing with the public and or prisoners. That's according to documents provided by the SC Criminal Justice Academy under the Freedom of Information Act. You mean to tell me that this police officer had multiple counts or multiple complaints before this one? That's what it means. Because of a Freedom of Information Act, we now know it. He was let go of the job, let go of being a cop. Why? Not only because of this incident, but because of other incidents before where you failed to act. I'm talking about the governing agency. The governing agency failed to act. And this is what happens when you fail to act and there's an out of control rogue cop among your ranks. This is what happens. Mr. Gilliard could be dead. He could be gone today. And it wouldn't just be the fault of the cop, but also the system. And this is why we call out systemic issues, because it takes a system for this cop to continue to serve on the job, to continue assaulting other citizens. Dukes has bounced around quite a bit. He worked as a Calhoun County Sheriff deputy until July 24th, 2018, before he resigned to take a job as an officer at Orangeburg Department of Public Safety. He worked there until May 22nd, 2019. He resigned from ODPS and began working at the CCSO on May 29th, 2019, until they terminated him 16 months later. He returned to ODPS on October 12th. Yeah, he's making the run. And this is the culture of policing that's jacked up. Let me take you back to a federal policy that would help resolve some of this. The George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act literally would mandate a uniform system to report officers like this. It would be a transparent process. Everybody would have been aware of his background. Everybody would have been aware of his tendencies to violate the rights of citizens and to utilize excessive force repeatedly. Everybody would have been aware of that, including you and I. And we could have put political public pressure on local authorities when they decide to employ individuals like this, who not only cost us with how we deal with our humanity, but they cost us real money. Having a good cop saves you from the bad lawsuit. Having a good cop saves you from the bad interaction with a citizen. But if you continue to foster an environment, an atmosphere that protects clowns like this, then you get what you deserve as a municipality, as a police department, because now, due to your inaction for so many years, and you're allowing this guy to move from department to department with multiple instances of violating others, you are just as freaking responsible. You're the system that allows scum like this to permeate and to kick an elderly man in the damn head and damn near kill him. You do that. The system does that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, shifting gears. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free. Back off.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You're good right there.
Dumbass stuff. Y'all wouldn't hype when we were standing out here. Do something, bitch. I dare. You can hype like you're aggressive, bitch. You probably like black too, bitch. Actually, I don't. You probably do. You probably have a lot in your mouth. Sure don't. Get that.
What's going on, beautiful people? I see a lot of people came through on that post. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. A lot of people had a lot of, I guess, understanding on what should have happened or what shouldn't happen. But here's a quick update. Just left the Augusta County Sheriff's Office because they arrested me. Yeah, they arrested me. They said that I was guilty of assaulting the lady who hit me.
This is Blue Lives Matter, Karen. And listen, here's the thing about these Blue Lives Matter people. They say that, which is their right. It's constitutionally protected. They say Blue Lives Matter, but it's never really just that. To them, Blue Lives Matter and nobody else matters. So in this situation, you see a very traditional Karen-like circumstance where the Karen who is the aggressor, who is the assaulter, this Karen who physically touches this man, knocks his camera out of his hand, she is able to benefit from a preference that law enforcement will give her. Let's call that a privilege. She gets a privilege that the black male who was also exercising his freedom of speech, who was also exercising his freedom to assemble, his freedom of press, he was exercising these freedoms just as much as the protesters for Blue Lives Matter. They are the same. They are exercising the same constitutional freedoms within the same constitutional context. Only one person committed assault, and that was this white female who ended up not being arrested. Brittany Harris of Augusta County, Virginia, destroyed a black man's camera and called the police. Officers arrived and watched the video, then escorted the racist Karen to safety while they prolonged their investigation. Their cameraman was actually arrested for the assault. Now, here's why it's important to highlight this story in the context of all of our Karens. Remember when I told you before that typically Karens, or those that exhibit Karenicity, they have benefited from a criminal justice system that will believe them over anybody else. And that's why you see so many individuals who are obviously victims of these Karens. They would just rather not even argue, not debate, not wait on the police because they know that police would typically believe them. Now you have a situation where an actual camera, you have a video, you have a recording. And even though the police saw the recording, even though it's clear that this particular Karen in Augusta County, Virginia, that she's the aggressor, and it's clear that she committed assault, statutory assault, criminal assault. She was taken to the side while they did their investigation. And after reviewing the video, they arrest the black man. See, this is the unequal application of law. Unequal application of law. We can call it inequity. And in this inequity, you have two individuals who are exercising their constitutional freedoms. They are involved in a constitutional exercise. But one person decides to step outside of the Constitution and commit a criminal act. Well, this person happens to be a white Karen who's there supporting Blue Lives Matter. You think that has something to do with the fact that She wasn't arrested, but he was? Of course. Narratives matter. They should not matter to those who protect and serve us, those who take an oath to uphold the law and the Constitution, to apply the laws equally. You see, they're operating more and more like a clique, like a gang, like a crew, rather than like police officers. And that's why it's important that we bring this to your attention and we highlight it for the masses to see. Because it was a disgrace to have a black male who was assaulted by a white woman arrested even after those cops saw the video for themselves. All right, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay is indisputable.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories. Gee, I wonder why we didn't get $15 minimum wage. Because they're all raising money from the guys who don't want to increase the minimum wage.
And we play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The Republicans say we will serve our corporate masters at all costs, including killing democracy, yet here we are. Where else do you hear that? You hear that on NBC, on ABC, on CBS. You hear it nowhere.
They don't want to talk about money in politics because it's really hard to pass judgment when your media organization is funded by fossil fuel companies.
The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, the defense contractors, the Wall Street, or the big pharma. And we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed.
The president labeled him a son of a bitch.
I don't think it's good to be a distraction to your team.
To stand proudly for the national anthem.
You know, some of these people need to move to another country.
Well, you shouldn't be playing, you shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
The president is put in place to amplify the racists in this country.
Black men and boys are killed at an exponentially higher rate than white men and boys, as outlined by PBS. Black people are most likely to be killed by police, found mappingpoliceviolence.org. Personally, my biggest gripe is not seeing how sports and politics have been attached at the hip. From the jockey syndrome, to the Negro Leagues, to Tommy Smith and John Carlos, Muhammad Ali, to modern day and everything in between. This is not an escape. It is a reflection of reality and a reflection of the times.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of comments, let's get to it. Thank you all for always chiming in, all right? We got TYT member, I am a damn lib, says, these abuses are just compounded. The cops violate, injure, and kill their citizens. The populace pays all fees, physical and economic, that's right. Neon Gremlin, they want you to comply with the assault. You're not letting them torture you. That's disobeying an officer and or resisting arrest depending on how much footage bystanders have. Carlson is a lying mother tucker. I feel this police department arrested the wrong guy in order to send a message in hopes of discouraging folks from recording them going forward. Well, I do believe it definitely was to send a clear message about where they stood and who they're willing to violate to get their point across. And they violated this man. Eric the Red, freedom of the press. The Karens believe in the freedom of suppress. Yep. YouTube super chat, Tony D. Thank you, Tony D. Freedom fighter. It's astonishing that after the Chauvin conviction, cops are still out here putting their knees or boots on people's neck and stomping them. It's like they never learn. And that's why they have to go to jail. They have to. Long overdue. Should have been happening a long time ago. We would have been able to remedy some of this, but now it is happening. Freedom fighter. And she has the nerve to be wearing a "You Need Jesus" shirt. They always have on something like that, don't they? Every time. Divolve says, I see a thin blue line flag and I think there is a violent, ignorant, and dangerous criminal who is protected by corrupt cops. Set apart. She only used her whiteness because she knows her crocodile tears or disgraceful acts will get her off. For her disgraceful acts will get her off, yeah. Jim Garcia says, the same Karen doesn't give a crap about the Capitol Police. You're right. All right, let's go to Twitch. Chainsaw 667. Cops, cowards oppressing the poor for sport, yeah. Funsai, yeah. And somehow a dude with that name, no one spotted that he is like this, how? Back to the Karen, Me Too appeared. Wait, what? So the camera got slapped, his own camera out of their hands? Right. She did it. She just avoided prosecution. Okay. This is a tough one because I have to say it plainly. New York City, you have an out of control cop. That's what you have. There's a cop on the New York City subway who has been terrorizing people. Here's the first video.
Got you, no problem. I got you. Wow. Back away.
There's more. There's a lot more. Let me give you a little bit of background before I bring you the more. Criminal defense attorney Dr. Rebecca Kavanaugh shared a series of videos on Twitter of a cop on New York City subway station slamming a young woman to the ground for allegedly not paying $2.75 for the subway fare. His name is Sergeant John Zorilla of Transit Bureau 4, okay? That's who he is. An hour after that confrontation that you just saw, there was another confrontation. Here's the next confrontation, same day.
Matter of fact, get out of the train system. Get out of the train system. Right now. Get out. Yeah, get out. Go. Because you have to go. That's it. Get out of here. Get out of here. My man, you got to put your hands up. Get out of here. You finally screaming? You get out of here. No, you got something. You screaming that. Don't put your hands up. Don't put your hands up. Okay, so get out. Put your hands up. So get out of here. Get out. Okay, get out. Put your hands up. Get out. I'm on my pueblo. Yo soy chamado. Ojalá que tú me mates atrás.
Can I get your badge number? What's your badge number?
3069.
He gave his badge number. We have his badge number. The individuals left the subway station. He decided to basically go after them. Here's the next video.
Mami, you know what? Guess what? Guess what? Come here. Yo, what are you doing? 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 Mami, no. Take my phone. Take my phone. Yo. What are you doing? Give me his phone, please. 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 Go right there. Yo. Give me his. Yo. Don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me. I can't, bro. I didn't do nothing, bro. Why you macing me? Why don't you say nada?
He's engaging in an arrest, macing an individual as well. These are just the videos we know about from that one day. There may be more video from that one day. Definitely, there's more encounters, okay? Once again, Sergeant John Zorilla out of Transit Bureau 4 is the guy you see in the video. There's more to this story. It's quite fascinating. The t-shirt that you see on this sergeant, yeah, he's a sergeant. The t-shirt that you see, him wearing that red t-shirt, is a Trump t-shirt. Billionaire in Training, The Apprentice Workout, that is a Donald Trump t-shirt. Now he's wearing, you gotta think about this now. He's wearing a Donald Trump t-shirt on duty. That's what he's doing. He's sending a very clear message about who he is, what he believes, what he stands for. That's what he's doing. It's really meant to instill fear in people. It's meant to show you what side he's really on, not yours. He's not there to protect and serve you. Sergeant John Zorilla has been a repeat offender when it comes to misconduct, and New York has paid out nearly $300,000 to settle claims against this one officer. There it is, Rebecca Kavanaugh, the attorney. Dr. Kavanaugh put New York City has paid out almost $300,000 to settle claims against Zorilla. There have been 18 allegations of misconduct or use of force made, 8 complaints and 6 lawsuits. You're at $300,000 for this one individual. Here's something else. You know how much money he makes to terrorize citizens like this? To act in a way that's definitely not becoming of an officer, contrary to the training that many tell me officers receive. How much money does he make to do this? $162,000 a year. That's how much he gets paid to do this. Let's put it up. Let's source it. Rebecca Kavanaugh, once again, $162,000 a year. Wow. And that's how you do your job. Okay. You see, people like that give policing as an industry a bad name. And when you do nothing about it, when the agencies that employ you do nothing about that guy, when they employ people like that and they let them continue, well, any bad PR you get, you deserve it because you're protecting people like that. Okay, Matt Gaetz, this is something just, it is what it is. So during a campaign on Saturday, he said that he has a particular disease, and this is a disease that Matt Gaetz says he has. Here it is.
You've had all the experts say, well, look out for the Delta variant or the Lambda variant. Next is gonna be like the Chi Omega variant or the Pi Kappa Psi variant. I got the Florida variant. I got the Freedom variant. It affects the brain. It gets you to think for yourself, where you don't just surrender to the truth that they're trying to create and corrupt big media.
Okay, I'm going to do something I rarely do. Can we see that video one more time?
You've had all the experts say, well, look out for the Delta variant or the Lambda variant. Next is gonna be like the Chi Omega variant or the Pi Kappa Psi variant. I got the Florida variant. I got the Freedom variant. It affects the brain. It gets you to think for yourself, where you don't just surrender to the truth that they're trying to create and corrupt big media.
No, Matt, I think you have the trafficking underage girls variant. I think that's what you actually have. I think you're mistaking the freedom variant with that variant. And I wonder, is this going to be his affirmative defense when he gets arrested? Because he's going to the pokey. When he gets arrested, is he going to say, hey, really not my fault. I had the freedom variant. That's what was going on with me. You see, he's dangerous because he continues to put people in danger. He doesn't care about those who are cheering for him, who believe his rhetoric. He doesn't give a damn about them whatsoever. What he cares about is the fact that this rhetoric, this dangerous, insane rhetoric, completely contrary to the truth, grants a distraction to his own internal mess. And they're not paying attention to what he's being investigated for, or the credible allegations against him, or people in his own family talking about him now. No. We want you to focus on this, and I will tell you lies that will likely get you killed if you believe him, if you believe Matt Gaetz. The state, and this is how irresponsible this guy is. His state, Florida, saw 21,683 new infections in just one freaking day. That's according to CDC data released on Saturday, surpassing a previous peak of 19,334 cases recorded in January. It gets deeper. Remember, this clown is on stages telling people a bunch of lies, making them think they're safe. State officials say hospitalizations are reaching levels not seen since middle 2020, excuse me, when vaccinations were not available. Immunization rates are sagging across the US, and Florida's infection rates have jumped 50% in 1 week. And the state now accounts for 1/5, 1 in 5 of new infections in the entire damn country. Matt Gaetz, you are a horrible scumbag. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable.
We're very honest that we're progressives. We call the Young Turks home of progressives, and we support progressive candidates.
There has been this reemergence of political activism, especially among young people.
This weekend was the second Women's March, both across the US and across the world. So these people are not simply marching, they're not simply talking, but they're also running for office. And when they do run, they're gonna make a difference.
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful. Why? He raised a lot of money. But there's someone finally challenging him.
We need to have representation that advocates as fiercely for working class people as possible from this seat.
If candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez even get a little bit of media attention outside of what the Young Turks does, they have an excellent chance of winning. She's gonna win, she's gonna win.
68% reporting.
The majority of Americans want Medicare for all. So I don't care what you and your corporate cronies want. What I care about is what the American people want.
We believe in total change. Everything runs on donor money. And that is what we will fight, and that is exactly why they don't like us.
We're having fun, it's election night.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
Here we go again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes Crowley. Down goes Crowley. Down goes Manafort. Down goes Cohen. Women came out in record numbers in the primaries. They said you'll be lucky to get one candidate. We now have 12 that have won their primaries. Bezos and Amazon announcing that they are going to go to a 15-hour minimum wage.
We're making progress. Let's keep going.
Many of these women made history.
The biggest victories, all women of color. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, Sharice Davids and Deb Haaland.
And I want to go to Congress because I want to change those things.
I'm calling it. Jamal Bowman has won. Down goes Engel. Down goes Engel.
For a long time, we have not had progressives in power. It's going to be something to behold.
Welcome to Happy Hour, everybody. After a week of soul-crushing news, we break out the good stuff. Good news, good videos, good people, and of course, drink good alcohol. That's the worst thing I've ever had.
This is the best show.
Full disclosure, we did do a shot right before the show began. It says,
let's
flamingo.
Flamingo.
The reason you had trouble with that word is it's not a word.
Okay.
This is the one of everything.
I've got a rash. Could I just put it on that to see if it'll take it off?
What did you used to think this was?
Bull piss.
Drink it, swallow it,
No.
spit it. Oh, that's needed after a day like this. Cheers to Brett Ehrlich. Climax. Uranus smells like farts. Because of course it does. This is the worst sketch ever of a perp. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the guy. This is Sophie's super happy dog story of the week.
This dog is so precious and deserves the world. I'm just not drinking that beer.
Here's my dog. This is Onyx.
Yeah, I would just say that he's exotic because he's not your traditional dog. Still 12 out of 10 because they're all good.
Well, if that made you happy, just wait till you see the best thing ever of the week. There is a woman who moves like a horse.
Why do I want to go home and try this?
We're actually going to show you the running butthole challenge right now. What's happening? No, that's just wrong. Every way. And we'll see you next time.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze. Frozen crashed.
You know, I'm watching that documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts, and it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
All right, welcome back. Let me go to some of these viewer comments and then we'll get into the next segment. We got a lot of them. Okay. TYT member, Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, 18 abuse of force complaints. So they're waiting for him to murder someone before they determine that his actions are justified. Wow, yeah. This is how it starts, right? Super chat, Per says, and thank you for that. He is power tripping, big time power tripping. Hazy Dragon, is it legal to wear political wear on duty? Usually not a policy standard for sure in any government job. The Gazette, if police were any other business costing the city money, would require defunding and layoffs to save money, they get the same treatment as the rich. Bigger problems, give them more money. Yeah, Jim Garcia, he's got the Trump Jr. variant, the Coke variant. Excuse me, I'm laughing because I kind of said something similar before the show. Okay, great minds think alike. Twitch, Captain Cornball says, the other thing is that none of the other officers acted as if anything was unusual about the arrest. Yeah, that happens a lot, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have Dr. Carol Lieberman, a medical doctor, also has an MPH, Master of Public Health. And we're going to talk about a few things, including wokeness, and you know, what happens with white guilt. Is it a mental health disorder? And we may also get into Joe Biden and his mental health as well. Dr. Lieberman, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
I do not want to presume what you believe about woke, being woke, or wokeism. So if you would, give us your belief of what being woke is about.
Wokeism is about destroying America, destroying American values, destroying the family, telling us that men are women and women are men, inciting racism more than ever before.
Okay, so you just made that up. The definition of woke, according to, you just made that up. The definition of woke, according to Merriam Dictionary, is to be aware and actively attentive to important facts, especially issues of racial and social justice. Oxford Dictionary, which added the word woke in 2017, says the term and its derivatives are commonly used to describe people who are alert to racial and or social discrimination and injustice. Cambridge defines wokeness as a state of being aware, especially of social problems such as racism and inequality. Madam, I have researched this thoroughly, and since around 2016, 2017, it has been in the lexicon of our language. But even before that, it was within the context of urban language. We would say to each other in the Black community, is that individual woke? Stay woke, which means to stay alert. The definition that you have provided is a definition contrary to the actual working design of the word. So where did you get your definition from?
No, it's not that. I am telling you what the impact of woke is.
But I asked you, what does the word mean? Do you know what it means?
I wouldn't disagree with what you're saying, except for the fact, the slant on it. The way you, those definitions seem to, in some way, to some degree, imply that this is a good state of being, and I'm saying that the impact of it is a bad state of being.
There's a negative impact to individuals who are more aware of societal biases and injustices in the justice system. That creates a negative impact.
The way that wokeness is being used today is having a negative impact. Yes, should we all be more awakened to any kind of injustice and all of that? Of course, but that's not what's happening today. Today it is being taken to the nth degree, and things that are happening that are just pretty outrageous.
Now, you mentioned, you brought up a moral issue as it relates to being woke. Let me ask you about your profession. You are an MD. So let me ask you, do you have woke doctors in your profession?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that. There have been some stories, just some headlines recently about like Harvard, for example, where they are in the medical school, where they don't want to say that somebody don't want to call a woman who gives birth, well, a person who gives birth, a woman. That's a birthing person or whatever. And we have a transsexual in the Olympics, and they're saying he is a woman. These kinds of things are very destabilizing to our mental health. It's not about black or white or what sexual orientation or whatever. It's people in general. These things are very destabilizing. It's one thing to be aware and to be certainly tolerant and all of that. It's another thing to call a boy a girl, for example.
Let me highlight something that's even more destabilizing than what you're talking about within your own profession. There was a study released not too long ago. I'm sure you are familiar with the study. Dr. Oz and a few other individuals that I don't typically agree with, they gave credence to the study and talked about this study. But it showed that medical doctors, white medical doctors, if you are a black patient and you have a white medical doctor, you have a lower chance of living. Have you seen that study?
I've read something about it. I don't think I saw the actual study itself.
So
but
let me give you
reports about it.
Let me give you the background to that study then, since you have not read it. I encourage you to do so since it is part of your profession, not mine. The report showed that black doctors with black patients, they have a higher rate of survival than white doctors who have black patients. The number is even more extreme when you have a white male doctor and a black female patient. that number of their survival decreases significantly. So what you have seen in the data, and remember, you're a scientist, madam, you have to believe in data. What you see in the data is this disconnect between healthcare providers who are medical freaking doctors, who are providing inequity in their service, thus creating an inequitable outcome. And the doctors who are now interpreting the data, they're saying, bottom line, we do not believe our black patients as much as we believe our white patients. You disagree with them?
Well, first of all, I am sure in some cases that may well be true. I would have to look at the exact study to see how scientific it was. But
why have you not looked at that study? That was a groundbreaking study in your profession. Why would you not look at that study?
I've read about it, but not the study itself. The point is that you know what the impact of that is? The impact has been that in certain hospitals now, they are trying to only have black doctors treat black patients and white doctors treat white patients. Do you know how bad that is for black people and white people alike? If you need a doctor that's the best in your specialty, whatever your problem is, you want that doctor, whatever, it doesn't matter. See, this is the whole thing. It doesn't matter what the color of the skin is of the doctor. It shouldn't matter. It should matter how intelligent that doctor is, how well trained they are, how many patients they've seen with this kind of problem. We shouldn't be looking at the color of the skin.
Yeah, I think that's great in a utopia, but madam, the data is clear. Doctors who have gone to college all of these years, who are learned individuals, are still exhibiting implicit bias that they were unaware of, where black people are on the short end of that bias. You can't tell me that doesn't bother you as a medical doctor. I'm bothered by professors. I'm a college professor. I'm bothered by professors who have inequitable outcomes as it relates to their black and brown children inside of colleges. That bothers me. So I fight against it. Why does this not bother you?
You're putting words in my mouth. Because I think that the emphasis is on the wrong thing. First of all, that is not all doctors. Certainly in my experience,
No, it is a statistical significance. That's why you have macro and micro data, madam. Come on, now you got a medical degree. We don't have to go through qualitative, quantitative. We don't have to go through, madam.
I have a public health degree and I've taken statistics for many years. That's why I'm saying that I am not ready to swallow this hook, line, and sinker.
Madam, you have all of these degrees. I got a bunch of degrees too. You and I both understand the reality of the framework, qualitative and quantitative research, comparable data, theoretical framework versus actual data. You mean to tell me that this actual data does not bother you in your profession?
It doesn't. What bothers me is this emphasis on skin color that is coming across whatever the story is nowadays. It's not, what happened in the story. It's what color the skin is of that person. And BLM.
That's what the study suggests, madam. That's the outcome of the study, the actual data.
Look, if you want to keep harping on that, don't you care more about the fact that we have become a more racist country since BLM has been doing their thing, since the death of George Floyd in particular? We shouldn't be looking at that.
Cite your sources on that. We have become a more racist country since the death of George Floyd. Tell me what source, what data source can you point to that says that?
Okay. Prejudice, racism.
No, ma'am. What date you just made a conclusive argument about us being more racist in this country because of the death of George Floyd?
As a psychiatrist, what I have seen, okay? As a psychiatrist, what I have seen.
How many people are in your practice?
If you don't want to hear what I have to say, then fine. But don't ask me to point to numbers, okay? I'm trying to make a point, and you're trying to interrupt me so I can't make my point.
No, I'm trying to get you to source the conclusion of what you just presented.
From everything that I have observed as a psychiatrist, okay?
You're just making stuff up.
No, I'm not. I'm trying
to say. Where's the source for your data, man?
The source for my data is psychological studies, okay? I'm not talking about studies. I'm talking about how prejudice comes from fear. Prejudice comes from fear, okay? I don't think you disagree with that. That's kind of an
prejudice. I do disagree. Prejudice comes from ignorance. I do. Prejudice, ma'am. You can do the research yourself. Pew Research, madam. You can check me out. Pew Research did a study and showed that prejudice and biased behavior comes from ignorance, not fear as you have codified it. You can check me out.
I'm sorry. Yes, of course, people who are more ignorant are more likely to be prejudiced, absolutely. But they are also more likely to be afraid more easily. What I'm trying to say is, with all of the things, you don't want me to talk about Black Lives Matter, apparently. So
go ahead, madam, talk about Black Lives Matter. I will be here to offer rebuttal if I see fit.
Sure, and I'm sure you will. Black Lives Matter, by stirring people up and causing riots in the streets, protests that turn into riots, people in front of restaurants that get harassed and assaulted and all of that, stores that are looted, all of the different aspects of violence, cops that are being shot, in broad daylight, people being shot in broad daylight, all of those things, those are, and not to mention critical race theory in the schools, all of those things have increased racism.
Okay, so let me give you some facts because I traffic in facts over here. Racism, as far as survey science is concerned, people believe that the country has more issues with race or racial issues after the election of Trump. That number was already trending in the wrong direction with President Obama, to be quite frank with you. And it became even more pronounced under the presidency of Donald Trump. That's based on actual survey data of people saying, when did this country start to become more racist? But I will submit this to you, madam. This country is not as racist as it was during slavery. So if you think that this country is more racist than it has ever been, it's not as racist as it was during the foundation of the country. When you can actually own, kill, molest, rape a black person, a black child, a black woman without any penalty, and the government will protect you. I would call that pretty damn racist. Now let's go to your point.
True, but I was talking about more modern history than that. Yes,
okay.
It was
all right. Well, if you believe that Black Lives Matter is the catalyst of racism, if you really believe that.
Wait a minute. I'm talking about what's happening in modern times. I'm not,
okay, but you do believe
slavery. They weren't around, right?
But you do believe in the modern context, doctor, that Black Lives Matter is the catalyst for racism in the United States of America.
Or increased racism in these more recent times, yes.
Let me ask you about the 1960s under the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Do you think he created more racism in the United States of America? He was described just like you described Black Lives Matter. He was stirring up trouble, as you say. He was contrary to the normative thinking of whites at that time. Do you think he also created racism in America?
No, he didn't, because
What's the difference?
His message was he didn't tell. His message was at the foundation of it was peaceful. He didn't want.
And the foundation of Black Lives Matter is a peaceful message. What are you talking about?
What peaceful message is that?
The peaceful message is the fact that 99.2% of all of Black Lives Matter protests led to absolutely no violence whatsoever. You also had riots happen under the civil rights era of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There were riots in the street.
But
Dr. King, ma'am, let me just remind you, Dr. King was asked about those riots. He said, "What do you have to say about these riots?" He said, "Rioting is the voice of the unheard." That was his response. So if you do an actual research study on Dr. King, you will find that Dr. King, at his core, his message was peaceful. But so is it with Black Lives Matter. They do not have anything on their website, nor do they hold meetings telling anybody to commit acts of violence.
That is not true. In fact,
well, point to it. What Black Lives Matter website tells people to commit acts of violence? Where?
The Black Lives Matter, I don't have it in front of me, but the Black Lives Matter.
Well, just tell me what it is.
The Black Lives Matter, they had this 2 weeks during Black History Month in school. They were putting forth an agenda that was so disruptive of the American family. And all of that, why do you think you're gonna say 99.2% of the riots of the protests that Black Lives Matter caused were peaceful? That is,
man, that's a fact.
And the reason why it only looked the opposite way is because the media picked up the violent ones. Is that what you're gonna say?
Ma'am, what I have just stated to you is a statistical fact, once again, backed up by Pew Research. You can find that easily through a Google search. Now, let me ask you about another protest that turned into an insurrection that I have deemed to be a terrorist attack. What are your thoughts about what happened on January 6th?
I knew you were gonna go there.
Why would I not?
I don't think those were terrorists.
What do you think they were?
Well, for starters, they were not told by President Trump to do that. That's
I don't care about that for this argument. Who were they? What did they do?
They did go into the Capitol and they created mayhem. Absolutely. Do I think that that's right? That they should have done that? No. Do I call them terrorists? No.
What's the definition of terrorism?
Well, terrorism is trying to change a political or a social structure in one way with violence or with.
You just described what you said was not
I just
terrorism.
described what they did, what some of the people did on January 6th.
So you do agree then? You change your story now?
No, that was not the intent of what was supposed to happen on January 6th. Did some of the people get violent? Yes.
Madam, you understand what just happened here, doctor?
That what?
You said that what happened on January 6th was mayhem, but not an act of terrorism. And then when I asked you to give me the definition of terrorism, you perfectly described the actions of what happened on January 6th. What they engaged in was criminality in order to affect a political outcome. That is the definition, statutory definition of terrorism.
But this whole thing has been misconstrued, really. And in a way to blame Trump for everything that happened.
As I said before, ma'am, I'm not getting into the weeds of that in this argument because I want you to clearly define. I want to be able to see, are you able to call balls, balls and strikes? That's what I'm saying at this moment.
I don't know if you know this, but I am in fact, and I have it copyrighted or registered, the trademark, the terrorist therapist. Are you aware of that? You're the
terrorist therapist.
Yes.
So you're the therapist for the January 6th, right?
No.
Well, who are the terrorists that you provide therapy to?
I don't provide therapy to anybody. Okay. It's what it means.
Thank God for that, by the way.
I don't. When you don't have anything intelligent to say, you do a personal attack.
Ma'am, the way you have come across in this interview, by not being able to call terrorists, by misappropriating data to suggest that black people are more violent than any other movement, to mischaracterize black lives, and to ignore
than any other movement. You're just changing my word.
Okay.
I should be expecting this.
You literally ignored the fact that you contradicted your own narrative.
Could I say what I was starting to say? When you got up on this being a therapist for the January 6th people, which I am not. When I'm a born and bred New Yorker, and when 9/11 happened, even though by then I had moved to California, my heart was and still is with New York. And I have devoted a significant portion of my professional life to helping people cope with terrorism, helping people cope with the memory of 9/11, helping people cope with the ongoing threat of radical Islamist terrorism. And I've written 2 books about terrorism. I do a podcast called The Terrorist Therapist Show. And in fact, I did a podcast on the January 6th event. And I said terrorists, or patriots.
Event.
That was terrorists or
so,
patriots.
Let me ask you this question.
And clearly my description of them was patriots.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. That's so ironic to me. That's so ironic. If everyone who stormed the Capitol, if their last names would have been Muhammad, would you still call them patriots?
If they were patriots, if they were doing it to save America.
So you are saying on my show that the criminal acts that have been deemed criminal acts against the United States government, you are saying on my program today that those individuals actually acted in accordance to moral and good ethics.
These were people who love America. And did some of them do some wrong things? Yes, but they did it in the spirit of saving America. That was the point. That's not what radical Islamist terrorists do, and other kinds of terrorists.
Of saving America.
Yes.
This is fascinating. So one of the issues, obviously, is that naturally these individuals are being charged as insurrectionists. They did commit acts of violence against police officers as well. Do you have any issue with the fact that these individuals that you say committed mayhem? Do you have a problem with the fact that they also physically assaulted police officers during that terrorist attack?
Well, I don't think anybody should assault anybody. I mean, a policeman did kill a woman. The one death was a woman killed by a policeman. But I don't think anybody should assault anybody.
Okay, so at this point, you can admit that some of these insurrectionists did physically assault police officers. Are they in fact criminals?
Again, I don't believe anybody should assault anybody.
But why can't you just call them criminals? Like if you assault a cop, right, and the cop did nothing to deserve, that's a criminal.
If you assault anybody for that matter, you're a criminal. Yes, right. Okay.
Right, and if you trespass criminally on property, if you destroy their property, if you refuse to leave after receiving a lawful command, if you engage in acts of criminality in order to affect the outcome of a political process, why is that not terrorism?
As I said in my show, I called it terrorists versus or patriots, and I call them patriots. You know, people feel, including myself, quite frankly, people feel very passionate about this country going to hell in a handbasket. I feel very passionate about this country going to hell in a handbasket. I am not going to storm the Capitol, but I do what I can, through the media and my books and so on.
Yeah, you're just as bad as them.
To try to wake people up.
I thought you didn't want people to be woke. But let me tell you this, Doctor. In my book, you're just as bad as them. Because you have a platform, you provide protection for them, you provide cover for them, knowing good and damn well they're criminals. You know that, and you know what kind of criminality that leads to. That leads to saying things like, let me destroy another individual because they don't think like me. Let me hurt, let me kill, let me bring bombs to the Capitol. Let me have an arsenal of 15,000 weapons. Let me engage in this because the ends justify the means. And that's the argument that you've made on my show.
Say any of that.
You said they love America.
You're projecting onto me what I said about Black Lives Matter.
Ma'am, how in the world can you love America when you protect the very core of its constitutional democracy known as a presidential election? How can you love America when you are literally attacking America at the same time?
I do think that the election does need to be investigated more.
Ma'am, that's one argument. This is the other argument. How can you love America and attack it at the same time?
How am I attacking it?
I'm talking about the terrorists. You said they love America. How do they love America and attack it physically, violently, criminally?
I am not saying, I am not absolving or saying that it's okay for anyone to do that. Similarly, it's not okay for people to do that in the streets.
So they are in fact criminals.
If any of the people who did a criminal act, whether it's trespassing or whatever, yes, but it's so ironic though, talking about irony. These people are being, there's a whole committee in Congress, investigating them, right? When the people who are loot and who commit violence shoot people in broad daylight in the street, they're not even given a bail. They're just being let out. Nothing is happening to them.
Okay, madam, my producers are telling me I'm flat out of time. I do appreciate you being on Indisputable. Thank you for joining me in the bullpen.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.